while we wait for Chairman O'Sullivan, we assume he's gonna be here. Maybe we can just get some of these smaller housekeeping things out of the way real quick. What do you say, let's just jump down to personnel?
Fine with me.
Okay, first up we have a wage authorization for Russell Davidson, BPD.
I believe that's a promotion to sergeant, and I
Yeah.
believe the change in status is $33.23 per hour now, so
Yep.
I would move approval.
I'll second that. And Greg, we're just doing a great job.
Yeah. Find my briefcase. Hey, without filing, I quit.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll just call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is police.
This is just the,
Oh, aye.
That's the only wage authorization.
Making sure it's,
then there's some other appointments, but those are just the council on aging appointments.
So, we got all these folks here for National Grid. We're still waiting for B, so we should probably just jump there.
You just did the one appointment.
Yeah, we just did the one,
Wage.
yeah.
What has the most people here waiting for us?
Probably National Grid.
All right, then let's do National Grid and get right into it.
Okay, I'll start with a little bit of background. Thank you, Jason, and everybody from National Grid for coming. I don't know everybody's name here, so if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves to the board. Other than Scott, our National Grid representative, I'm not sure who everybody else in the room is. But essentially, so the reason why we're having this discussion today is because back in April, the select board approved the poll petition and the conduit petition. And Jason had told the board that he did not want anybody to cut into the road. And despite that being Jason's wishes, the select board still went forward with approving the conduit petition, which does explicitly state cutting into the road. So that has kind of snowballed months of confusion and a back and forth conversation. Basically resulting in National Grid, they don't want to upset anybody. They want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and that they understand the intent of the town here. So today, they are here to make sure, along with Jason and the board, to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the conduit petition, and basically just explaining the importance of the work that's being done. So the microphones are up here. I don't know if you just want to have one person speak or if you all want to come up here, but.
So I had a couple of questions after last meeting where it looks like the poles could stay above ground. I was wondering if there's a need to go underground, what the idea is for digging as opposed to staying above ground. Because obviously I know Jason's aversion to it, so we've just paved the road, we'd rather not dig it up and patch and do the paved road, so we're trying to figure out before we say, yep, it needs to be done, we're gonna do it. Is there a need, or is this just a desire, or why are we looking to go below ground there?
I believe they're going below ground because of the high tension lines there.
Yeah, that's correct. There's 2 transmission lines across the road there, and that was our first preference, is to always stay overhead when we can. But because of the clearance issues, we're unable to.
All right, it's currently underground or overhead there now?
This is a new line we're putting there.
So there's nothing that extends
There's
up that
nothing there
road?
right now.
And the reason for extending up that road is for what, power outages?
That's correct.
And
This
that
is one
piece
of
of
our
road?
worst performing feeders in the state. So this project is taking that line that goes along the right of way there and moving it out to the roads for reliability.
So it's impossible to go over.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
But if this is not an existing stretch, we're adding a stretch that's underground.
correct.
So you're losing me here on what the requirement is. If we already have service here above ground at this point, you're trying to modify service, that's why we want to go underground.
There's no service there. There's no service there.
There's no service there at this time.
And we have to add service, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
trying to add
yeah,
another
it's,
feed
it's,
of
it,
Oakham, right?
right, it's not a service per se, this is the main line of the circuit. So coming out of the substation, going towards the customers.
And how are those houses fed now?
That line currently goes down the right of way, along with the transmission lines. And it's been the source of several outages over the years, which has helped make it one of the worst performing feeders in Massachusetts.
So that line that runs through the woods now is what currently feeds that area? Runs beside the road down its own right away?
That's the line that we're relocating, correct?
So there is an overhead line in existence.
Reliability.
Just to give you an example, in 2020, we've had 56 events on that circuit. And every year prior to that, 40-plus events per year because of the difficulty getting to that off-road circuit. So we're trying to eliminate that off-road circuit and mitigate the outage time by moving the circuit on the road and eliminating the complete off-road area of the circuit.
Now, that road you're talking about is 30 feet from the existing road. So put a bucket truck on the paved road, they could reach the lines over there now.
Oftentimes, we have to get a track machine out there to do a lot of that work, so we can't even get a bucket truck in there.
Can you also tell me it's how long of a span of time it's been out 40 times in that section? 'Cause I mean, I can't.
No, I'm
think
not
of-
saying that, I'm saying that circuit is experienced in 2020, it's experienced 56 events.
Right, how about in that stretch though? I would say 0 in that stretch.
I don't know, I remember just telling Jessica just a few weeks ago, we had an event out there, it didn't cause an outage, very well could have. Tree came down, broke cross arms and all that, all those customers stayed in. But I said, a different circumstance, very similar, could have caused an outage. And so, a lot of these customers along this stretch, I can tell you some of the streets, Woods Road.
How many customers
700 some customers
on that circuit? that
And-
run?
on that circuit.
These are Barre residents?
Barre,
How many?
No, it's
Oakham.
not in Barre, right?
There are
Woods
plenty
Road,
of
Woods Road, yeah, sure.
Woods Road, Happy Hollow, Vernon Ave, Barre Depot, Worcester Road, Nichols Road, Chapman Road, Old Coldbrook.
Yeah.
Those are the customers that are impacted by these events. I'm not saying every single event, every single customer's been impacted by, but those are the areas of customers that are impacted.
Jason, this is the road that goes up past the old
That's the
transfer
landfill,
station?
Yep. So now.
And the feed is coming from the Barre side towards Oakham,
Yes.
and it's affecting Vernon Ave?
No.
That's what he just said.
It feeds that whole area. It crosses 122 up Old Colebrook, all the way through.
Right, but I mean, if something happens up there, the future blows the bottom of Depot, and it shouldn't affect anybody on Vernon Ave. So that's, that should be a totally different circuit.
All one circuit.
That's the feed.
Okay.
It's all one feed, it goes
Yeah.
different directions.
So the first question I asked was, is this fed overhead now? And you guys told me, no, it's not, it's on service, but it is service. We're trying to stop an outage. So you're trying to place an overhead service on your own property down our road. Is that correct?
Yeah, not our property, but correct.
You're right of way.
Correct,
You have a problem with your current right of way, so you'd like to dig up our road.
correct.
I would think if Jason was adverse, we'd say go ahead and do it, but repave the road. It was just paved.
I mean, when you guys.
If it's that important, just go ahead and do it, but repave it, that's all. Just do the top coat again, grind and redo the top.
That's what we're
That
looking,
was the-
we're not only looking at the section of behind, under the transmission lines, we're not talking the whole road.
Right, they already ran the new poles up to that point. They wanna run just underneath the high tensions and come back up out of the ground.
Mhm.
224 feet.
It's also a 40-foot right-of-way. We have 24 feet of pavement. I don't see any reason why the manholes and service work can't be the side of the pavement. There's plenty of room there to do it. I don't understand that. I talked to the person that was designing it. He said there was no issue doing it like that. He said National Grid was not okay with doing that because they wanted the manholes plowed off during the storm.
We need to have access to our manholes. We'll
That
have
makes
to have a
sense.
20-foot pass,
Shovel.
paved area.
Well, yes and no, you know.
Right.
You shovel their fire hydrants.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
No, yeah, so the manholes have to be in a paved area, and because of the bank on the side, we'd have to have 40 feet of fill around the manholes. when they're off the road, so the fill would go 40 feet off the roads.
So why would you have to have fill if you guys could still stay in the road and work in the manhole?
Because you need to park the trucks over the manhole.
You need
Okay,
to bring
but,
apparatus
Right.
to it to pull.
Right, but if it's right on the side of the road.
The truck has to be above the manhole.
Yeah, you need a
Exactly,
radius.
exactly. How big's your truck? Your truck's 60 feet
The
wide.
cable pulling truck is pretty big, and so it,
It's only 8 feet wide. So why would you need 40 feet of pavement into the woods? That makes no sense whatsoever.
What if you just went another 5 feet wide, just pave that section 5 feet wider and put your manhole, just put it off the road, just pave that 5-foot section, then the plows can swerve out and hit it, and then we just made a wider road there.
That was my thought.
Then it's still in the road, we don't need the silly 40-foot span, because obviously most roads, we don't have 40-foot of buffer around roads. That way, we'll give you easy dig on the side of the road, finish the service and just pave that little bit up abutting the road, that doesn't affect our road service, and we can still plow it.
You're not extending the width of the road, the paving, right? It's
No.
bigger than
no, this is fill.
But if there is ways to go
not
around
40 feet
it,
of
we need
pavement
the
that's
road.
going past it. Right,
They have their own right of way, they just don't improve the right of way.
Well, I don't,
But not, no longer, no.
I'm not yet clear.
So no additional width of paving, it's still within the existing footprint of the roadway. It's digging a trench along the side of the road within the existing roadway and paving, well, we agreed to curb paving in the entire right-of-way. But we're not extending the width of the paving, it's gonna be within the existing right-of-way or existing paving limits.
Right, that's your proposed plan.
Correct.
What we're saying is why can't you pave an apron around the manhole? Your truck is still parked in the roadway to do the cable pulling if you have to pull cables. I mean, we're only talking a 200-foot run, they can pull it by hand.
Million cables.
Well, no, I know, but
This here is called for a stone wall.
Yeah.
Is this, and this is all.
there's not even
grading?
really a
It's
stone wall.
riprap, it's boulders and
Yeah,
riprap.
it's basically nothing. The digging's all good up there,
This
it's
is
all
what
gravel.
they should have done beforehand with Jason.
Really.
Maybe
So I
Jason
just
should have done it with them.
don't
Well, yeah, but
It's even
but
argument.
they should have
Seems like
met with
it'd
him.
be way cheaper.
I think
for
there's been
folks
several
and
meetings.
Wouldn't wreck our road we paved 8 months ago.
So we talk about right-of-way for roadways. The right-of-way is how much we have the right to use for a paved road.
Grading?
And it breaks down how much of that is actually finished and hot topped. So about 40-foot right, we only have 24-foot paved. So there's 16 feet that can be utilized on the right-of-way without disturbing our hot top.
Could you gentlemen do me a big favor? Could you make like we're here? And just, when you're explaining it to each other,
Come on up front, a couple of you, please.
well, no, I'm not saying it to be insulting.
No, but we can have the
I'm just
speakers up
trying
front.
very hard to understand the circumstances, because Jason is making one situation that I think I understand. You guys are talking about something that seems to me really simple. It's just you're just gonna have to restore the road, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, Jason's heart and soul is into the roads he fixes, and he doesn't want them unfixed quickly. So I get all that, but let's talk about what other possible, I mean, Greg's basically saying, I have to do this, and that's just it, it's over. I'm not convinced about that. I really want to understand what's the best solution for this, for our community. And I don't even mean just for Barre, I mean for the surrounding communities that depend on this particular circuit. It's really important. If I was living on Woods Roll or Vernon Avenue, I wouldn't be too thrilled if the selectmen are saying here, yeah, to hell with this, I don't care if you ever get it fixed. I do care if I get it fixed. I worry about the condition of the road and what seems to be the best solution. But can we talk about what are the possible solutions? And you guys have put a lot of work and effort into this on National Grid side, so when Greg says, can you just make our road wider, and we put the manholes that you need in the wide section, that we'll plow a wider road during the winter, and then that would solve the problem, or not? It seems like too simple to have you guys have missed this.
In other words, and rather than dig up the asphalt to put your basins in your right-of-way and then put paving back over that same area, dig beside, we have a 40-foot right-of-way, we have the right-of-way, the roadway is there. We only have 24 feet of it paved. We can have 28 or 30 feet paved, it doesn't matter.
For 200 feet.
So, right, so for 200 feet, dig along the road, there's no cutting out anything, there's no disrupting traffic in the roadway. You'll have an easy situation to put your utilities in the ground. then simply, instead of repatching the road, just pave that section so your manholes are covered in asphalt, and we
It's
can
not that
plow
easy.
it.
There's an 8-foot grade drop plan that sort of shows on where the manhole is going. If they decline off the road at 8 feet, our manholes are over 8 feet deep. So that means our manhole will be exposed. We'd have to fill in all the way up to the top.
And you can't do
then
that,
regrade
yeah.
the whole slope of the hill, of the road. I don't know how, I mean, the manholes are 8 by 14 by 8 feet deep.
Okay.
It's a good sized structure. And if that whole side of the road is exposed, now you're gonna have washout, and create a problem.
Yeah.
This other end, there looks to be a little bit more room, but we've already designed it and been approved. So we're looking to start tomorrow, it actually is where we're going. And we were looking to grind and overlay the road in the spring when we're completed. You'll have a cement at each end.
Yeah, and we just spent $100,000 so we didn't have any seams in the whole roadway. Now you guys want to put seams in the road. If you was the state of Massachusetts road, they tell you don't even talk to me for 5 years. So I don't know why this is even a conversation.
Well, it has to be a conversation. We have an obligation to listen to a utility that's extremely important to the area. And we have to make sure that the utility is functioning, and functions in good or bad weather. And I cannot believe if we can put a rover on Mars, we cannot sit down like normal human beings and make a decision about this. Because, you know, it's easy for us to say, well, I live up on Pleasant Street, I don't care, they're not gonna do that to my road. It makes no sense. You know, maybe, you know, when they decided they were gonna put, the Insight Meditation was gonna put a water main all the way up Pleasant Street, guess what? It all came all the way up Pleasant Street. So I look at this and I say, I understand because it's a real heavy grade there, there's no question, it's a steep hill area, right? So you can't just
No,
plop.
well, it's the slope off the road.
Slope off the roadway, okay. And I don't want to upset you, Jason, I understand it's
I
important.
care less. Doesn't
You- I
affect me in
know-
way, shape, or form. I just think it's a pretty wasteful situation to dig up a road we just spent $100,000.
Well,
Especially when, in
hey,
my opinion, it can be done without encroaching on the roadway at
well,
all.
the way you think it can be done doesn't seem to be what the engineers are all saying it can be
The
done.
design told me it could.
Oh, so do you think it can?
No. So it would end up going through private property. It wouldn't be within the road staking. We wouldn't be able to design it within the road staking.
Okay. Who owns the property? Do you know, Jason?
It's NEP. So
I don't know.
it's the transmission right away.
Oh, so, there'll be no power.
That would present a problem?
I wouldn't think so. I think
It's a big
Separate
problem.
entity, it's not a.
That does, I couldn't hear the answer, that presents a
It is a
problem.
problem, yes, it is a problem.
Okay, because it's separate from Mass Electric.
Correct.
Okay. And your existing right-of-way is not improvable, why, out of curiosity? I mean, if there's trees taking down lines, you can't clear the trees out, or what's, I don't understand why the existing right-of-way is gonna be abandoned for
This
this.
right away is on the far side of the dump.
Oh.
It's not 20 feet off the road. It goes all the way up, usually on the side of the dump and all the way through.
Well, you guys have new poles all the way to where it's 20 feet up the road.
We set all the poles all the way around the dump.
Right.
That's what we're gonna run all the way around. And then this 24 feet. is
Why
the
can't
new
you
poles.
guys go into the right of way you already have underground and then come back up? You guys already have right of way.
The right of way we have is going east to west through the transmission lines, so it doesn't cross over the transmission lines there. So this, we're coming from the north, and we need to get to the south of these transmission lines. That's how we need to cross them. So the existing right of way is not north to south
So it
across these
comes up
transmission
along the high
lines.
tensions
Yes.
from
Yep.
Barre and Ave?
Yep.
Okay,
So this is
Yeah.
right here,
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
across. And,
Yeah.
This
yeah, I see what you're saying.
about 200 feet.
Right.
So Jason, can you tell me what, okay, if we were to say, yeah, National Grid, this sounds a great idea, what exactly would they do to the road, and how can it or could it be repaired or not?
Well, for one thing, they're talking about doing it, and they're gonna pave it in the spring.
Okay, so it's a crappy
So
thing
that's-
during the winter,
that's a-
got it,
That's a big problem.
okay,
It's final paving in the spring.
Yeah.
We'll concrete encase our duck bank, we'll flow fill to grade and match existing 4 to 6 inches of asphalt for the winter. So it'll be paved,
Well, how big is this section? If I'm driving in my automobile,
it'll only be a 2-foot trench, 2-foot wide.
wait a minute, it's only gonna be 2 feet?
If you can't do 2 feet off the road, it's perfectly flat for 10 feet before it drops off.
For the trench, that's what you're asking. The trench is only gonna be 2 feet wide for the 200 feet. The manholes on each end will be approximately 10 by 16 patch. for the-
I don't mean to be stupid or opaque, but okay, I'm driving my automobile, so I'm only going over a 2-foot bump in the road, or am I going over a 200-foot bump in the road? 200? Okay, that's a little different.
Well, this is the road.
Yeah,
This will be a 2-foot wide trench on a, what do you say, 40-foot roadway. It'll only be a 2-foot trench. Each manhole at each end,
24-foot road.
but there'll be a 2-foot trench. And then at each manhole is an 8x14 manhole.
so it's not just going across the road, it's going,
all-
oh, yeah,
Because these here are our high tension lines.
yeah.
And this is, the existing line comes across, and our easement is parallel to the high tension. We need to
And
cross
so,
end to end.
so what you're saying, Jason, is you want it to go on the side of the
I'd
road?
like to see them dig that 2-foot trench.
And where is it crossing now? Under the high tension?
It's,
Comes up the side.
comes up the side, across.
So there was no electric cables coming up Depot Road. It came from Vernon Ave, up the high tension lines to Depot Road, and then went to Ocam. So now they're running it down Vernon Ave, up Depot Road.
And so, from your perspective, there's no other way to do this?
The edge of the road, like I said, these manholes are 8x16, so that whole area has to be widened. And then what we need to have is a 40-foot length, 20-foot on each side of the manhole for trucks. So you're gonna end up having to widen it by 40 feet and at least 10 feet off the shoulder on both ends.
Why can't you park the truck at an angle to the manhole?
Well, even if
The
they,
truck is in the road. Like,
For safety purposes, we park end to end of the manhole.
Okay,
Park in the middle.
so you can't do that?
It was proposed previously, this has been ongoing for many years.
This is the first I've heard of it, April. So I've been here 12 years.
Well, I've only been here 4 months, so I plead ignorant of it all. So, so basically, Jason, if you do what you're saying, somehow they have to get some private property? Is that the problem here?
I
They
would say
can't.
no problem, be within our 40-foot right of way.
You think you can do it in your 40-foot right-of-way?
I would think so. They have sizes of their equipment they have to put in the ground. I am not familiar with that, I'm not saying that I am.
I'm just looking at the grading here. We have an 8-foot drop in grading on this end and approximately 3 on the other end. So then you have to grade, we'll have to grade out, and then a 2-to-1 slope will end up being almost 20 feet wider on the outside.
Again, that's very easy to do. We're talking very minimal cost, still a lot less expensive to fill in around the structure than it is to dig up a roadway.
We don't have easements, we don't have proper easements currently, so that'll delay the project at least, if at all possible to get the easement. So that's why we went to the town, so we went to the roadway, and it was approved for grind and overlay of this 240-foot section. So we're looking to start this week prior to moratorium and snow.
Okay,
I
no-
think we have seams in our $100,000 road that we just paved, not bad seams.
Tell me this, is New England Power who owns the property? That's not like a private individual, that's like a company that National Grid took over most of, right? New England Power?
National Grid owns New England Power Company.
okay.
It's a parent company.
Okay, well, I mean, don't they just really exist on paper, New England Power right now?
Then why is that a problem to
Yeah.
get the right of way there? It's,
Oh, I guess, just very simply, yes, we're all under the same umbrella of National Grid. Each entity runs separately by itself. To Pete's point, and what's been said earlier, I can't express how critical this project is. and we will have to go to New England Power Company. It won't be an overnight thing, and as Pete says, we are really literally ready to stick the shovel in the ground tomorrow to start this project. We will put this project out months, involving, yes, our own internal folks, lawyers and this and that, but this will push this project out months and months and months, and honestly, we don't have the months and months to solve this reliability problem. It's been, you know, we needed to resolve it ASAP. So, I've been involved, and I realize this is new pavement. It's just, I guess I'm respectfully surprised, because that is the instant reaction of municipalities. If you're gonna dig on new pavement, then the expectation from a city or town is to do curb-to-curb paving, which we're willing to do. We're
Huh.
talking 2 little seams, we're gonna bring it up to grade in the springtime. This'll, I mean, I don't,
So you're gonna repave the road, and the only seam is gonna be where
We'll
you,
have
on either side of the
two
road.
perpendicular.
Either
Okay.
side of the right of way.
Two
Okay.
seams.
okay, so 2 seams, it's not gonna be one long, okay.
No,
Well, it is
for the winter, we'll.
For the
we'll
Yeah, for the
patch
winter,
this,
it's
For
gonna
the
be,
winter will be patched, the party
Yeah.
season red will be patched.
And then we'll do
And then
approximately 250 feet
go-
seam across, and we'll grind it overlay and pave the whole road.
There's also other issues with it. I mean, obviously, the manholes are gonna be places for the plows to catch. I mean, there's a million reasons. Obviously, any utility you can put off of the roadway is way better off.
out.
Something happens down the road, you know, one of their lines messes up, they try to pull it, when they put it together, something happened, they can't pull it, they gotta dig it, they're digging the road up again. It's just, obviously, any utility you can put out of the roadway, the better off you are.
Agreed.
And like I say, if we had known this project was coming, we could have talked to these folks before we paved the roadway, but that wasn't the case. So to say this has been going on for years and years, and I would also like to see the numbers of trees you guys have cleared in that section from Vernon Ave to Ocam Road, or Woods Road, that you're speaking of. I can think of 2 over the past 10 years that you guys have had come down and hit the wires. So, I think, yeah, you've had 700 or whatever incidents on that circuit, but not in that particular stretch you're talking about repairing. So, if it does get put out a few extra months to keep it out of the roadway, to simplify everything for you guys, for us, for everything, for the duration of that being in the ground, I don't see what the big deal is.
I guess I would tell you, don't worry about us. Worry about, you know, what your concern is. We've already come up with an engineered solution, so we're ready to press ahead. So it's just a matter of whether or not you're in agreement with our plan, because we're ready to move ahead. It's all been designed and approved, so.
For a different option?
No, for the option that
Oh.
Pete's made clear to you.
So if New England Power wasn't a problem, putting it as Jason has described and you have talked about would be an option? It's just that New England Power thing, you're not sure about what that would mean. It probably means spring rather than now.
Well, it would also entail, correct me if I'm wrong, conservation and/or
problem.
DEP approval for
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wetlands
yeah,
and-
anytime you're going off the road, and we'd be clearing trees near that southern manhole, because it would be set off the road, and we'd have to do the grading, so.
You'd be clearing trees that are on our property. Because the only trees there are along the roadway. Down in the right of way there's no trees. But we'll cut the trees for you, keep it out of the road. So,
40 feet out is a lot further than the road's taking from that side, though. There's, I guess I remembered there being trees there.
Well, it is a very difficult situation, depending on all of the people, you know, whether they be, you know, Barre citizens, their jeopardy to not have power in a difficult storm. Is that really what we're saying? So they have a tough winter ahead potentially. And then we would still be here, potentially, could be here in the spring with New England Power saying, we're not gonna give you right away. That's just my
And
fantasy.
We've already started all the other poles and pulling lines ahead of this, and because this was already approved by the town, so.
What, oh, okay, who approved it?
You put the poles in, I don't see any lines pulled.
We've begun pulling lines.
Oh, I was up there today, I saw the pole wire from Vernon Ave all the way up to the.
Okay, well, you said
pole wire.
approved by the town, so how come we're approving it now? If it's approved, how come we're not just moving ahead?
Well, so what
It was
happened
approved with the
was,
caveat that they don't disturb the roadway.
it was not,
We have,
It wasn't approved like that?
no. So back in April, when the board had approved this conduit petition, they approved the language as is. Their motion did not include anything about adjusting what was proposed by National Grid, which includes, in the packet, you can see, includes language on digging in the road, and I think that's why the National Grid is here tonight, is because they wanna make sure that everybody's on the same page with the project, because there has been, they don't wanna, interrupt their relationship with Jason, but they also don't want to disrespect their relationship with the board, but they feel like they're getting two different messages right now. They have the message from the board that approved them to dig in the public way back in April, and then Jason is not in favor of that. So that's why we're here tonight, is to,
Okay, so this has already been approved.
yes.
Well, usually any pole petition, you guys ask me my opinion.
Well,
And that's what-
I'm gonna just
that's
say,
what's approved.
okay, I wasn't here.
Yeah,
Okay, if we've already made, if the board approved this, and they went ahead and did whatever they did,
they haven't done anything in the ground yet.
well, yeah,
Wouldn't
but,
change anything they've already done.
but they've done all the planning and the preparation, right? And otherwise, we could have been arguing about this like in April 15th.
I was.
Okay, well, you must have been after the vote.
No, it was before the vote.
Okay.
And the board had acknowledged, they said, they acknowledged that Jason did not want them to cut into the right of way, but the board did not vote. They did
So,
not have they did not.
Did the board state that they didn't want it right away and just didn't get,
All they
language didn't get put into the?
All the board said was that you stated that you did not want them to dig into the public way, but their vote did not reflect that they supported your position. And so that's where I think it gets technical.
I think that's an easy, just, can you revote?
I don't, because it happened at a public hearing, I don't think that they can revote at this time.
Alrighty then.
I think it's careless.
I think we can revote it anytime we want.
I-
But I'm just we could, but you're talking about if we try to move this out of the right of way, obviously that riprap on the side of the road would have to be pushed out, they'd have to refill to that point. So it's not just simple, a little fill, it's 200 feet long of fill. And apparently their rules require them to go out to 40 feet. They have to follow this. So whether we say it's necessary or not, that's what their rules require. So if we push them outside the roadway, I think it's making a very large disruption for them, more so than for us. And I acknowledge you don't want to see them in the road, and I don't want to see them in the road either. But it does seem, when all things considered as this is, that it's going to be the least invasive thing to have the seam. And hopefully, if we have issues with that seam over the years, that they're going to come back and take care of it. But looking at the design, looking at where it is, once again, I'm not fully understanding
Well-
why this is a choice rather than something else.
Why don't we all meet up there and look at it? The contract is not coming tomorrow, I spoke to him today, so.
this was approved and stated that we were ready to go. The holdup was the permit, signing the permit with you, when the town had already petitioned and approved the easement for the conduit bank and the restoration, then we were ready to go.
I've never been asked for a permit, except for today. The contractor contacted me today to ask for a permit, first time ever. So,
It said they applied last week, or they tried talking with you last week.
spoke to him today. No comment.
Oh, you can answer him and see, I can't right now, but you can certainly see what he wants. He may have recollection as to what transpired. I had thought that we checked at the time before we do anything with the National Grid, because My first experience with National Grid, unfortunately, was we're talking about a poll petition, I think, on the Stevens property, where they met with us and told us, yes, we met with Jason, Jason's looked at, Jason's approved this whole thing. And I said, well, I don't see his signature on this, so I'd like to go have a DPW meeting first. And at the DPW meeting, Jason had not seen it, had not presented to him, and he had not signed off on it. So I had false statements made right here at the meeting directly to me, directly opposite what the facts were. So that's always made me go back and ask Jason before we do it. And my recollection is that Jason, I thought he said that he'd talked to them and they just weren't gonna disrupt the road, he'd be okay with it, they were not gonna disrupt.
Well, I think he's saying that tonight. He doesn't care what they do as long as they don't touch the road.
Well, and our right-of-way for the road is, to describe the road right-of-way, typically they are 40 feet wide. They do vary, but any road in town, there's a state road map that states how wide our right-of-way for the road is. Now, within that, it will also say how much of that is paved or improved. And in this case, it's 24 feet out of 40, so there is a lot more roadway right there. Now, that may be out beyond this riprap, I would assume. Now, if that's 24 feet, the right-of-way is probably someplace outside the riprap, and
Yeah.
So-
Measure.
our right-of-way probably exists on the fall-off. And it sounds like there was a miscommunication there between Jason saying not a problem, that if we stay out of the roadway, because it sounds like he was having no problem understanding they could do it outside the roadway, his sounds what he understood. And this plan obviously doesn't have it outside the roadway.
Well-
And this plan is the plan that we looked at and approved, and I think Sandy's trying to talk to Matt, who was here at the time, to see if he has
Well, the minutes indicate that that's what happened, that the plan was approved. And unfortunate, I guess, that it was approved and people didn't, it was whatever.
Is that on video? Is that a video?
It should be still posted, yes.
Yeah.
There's something to share that he's...
Yeah, he said that the minutes on April 5th says not to cut in the road.
They did.
I can go up and get them.
Okay. I'm sure he's looking at the minutes if that's what he told you. Matt's not.
Well, my concern is,
My recollection was we did specifically have that statement.
well, if you approved it, and that information was taken to National Grid, National Grid moved forward with engineering plans and so forth that cost them money, time, and attention on the select board's so-called say-so, at least from what you've described. I wasn't here. So that being said, I think that's a problem, because they moved forward in good faith. You know, took our vote as good faith. Whether you knew they did it or not, whatever. Okay, so I think we have that to grapple with. And another problem we have is we have to say, is it okay for us to say that while there could be outages that we could prevent, there could be opportunities to have better service and power to our community as well, is it worth to little whatever's in the road eventually? I agree. People will say, what the hell? What did they do that road for if they knew it was going to get dug up? I can hear it now, and you can too. You know, and how far are we off of Vernon Avenue for that first cut?
What do you mean?
Where will the seam be?
At the high tensions. It's gonna be a seam at one side of high tensions and a seam at the other side.
Yeah, how far down is that?
How
from
far
the
down is
intersection
that?
of Vernon? It's like
I think it's
half a mile?
almost a mile.
I'll say 3/4 of a mile.
Oh, so it's quite a bit up the hill then. Okay.
Beyond the dump, beyond, as in the
Yeah.
incline.
Right at the sharp point.
Yeah, yeah,
Up to the
okay,
top of the hill.
okay.
One thing we're willing, we can infrared, you allow infrared on the seams.
Yeah, that just wrecks the pavement, blows apart sooner because it burns all the oil out of it. I mean, there's no, you know, when you do a roadway from one end to the other, and no seams, it's all hot, you know, it lasts
I
forever.
understand, I'm just, there was.
Well, not forever, but
And-
long.
And again,
Longer.
our crews will do the temporary pavement for the winter, and then we have Danny Amarillo, or AF Amarillo, two contractors out of Worcester that do the road paving when it's not it's a little too big for our crews to be doing it. So,
Say, like, I'm not trying to be against National Grid.
No, we know,
It just seems to me like there's other alternatives, that there's no need to dig in the road.
Well, it appears that the alternative that we have is one that puts the project off 6 to 8 months. I'm
And
get-
there's no
It's been like
guarantee.
that for 50 years.
Well, yeah, but it hasn't been doing its job for 12 or 15 or 20 years either, so, I mean, that's kind of, it's sort of like saying, well, it was like that for 20 years, let's leave it alone. I don't buy that logic at
I'm
all.
not saying leave it alone,
Okay.
but it's like that for 50 years, another 6 months isn't gonna make all.
Well, especially because you live up on Pleasant Street with me. I mean, not with me. Let's make sure we get that squared up, not with me, on the same area that I do.
But Matt also said he believes in the minutes that it said not to disturb the roadway.
Yeah, and in the minutes means at the meeting with National Grid here, and that's what they were told verbally at the time that we approved this, that it wasn't to dig.
Well, I don't know, I haven't seen the minutes, so I don't know.
Now, was the drawing approved? This is the same drawing that was approved?
That is the same drawing that was brought
So
to the meeting.
it's, I mean, it's in the roadway, and it does show the right-of-way in the town taking of the 40-foot. It is shown on the print, and there is the grading issue and the property issue, the bound issues. And the conduit has been approved by the town and the paving of the town. This has been since April, the day of applying for a permit. Just so happened we have a meeting tonight. We're kind of stuck right now.
Well, a couple of things that I recall was that we had a discussion about it, and we said that it was, Jason just wanted to stay on the road, and you guys had agreed to that at the time that we passed this, probably with the understanding that you would do something a little different than that to keep out of the digging up the pavement. My understanding. Obviously, you all have gone to this point with it, and you sound determined to go forward with it. And my suspicion would be this would lead to litigation if we don't move forward with this. What you have drawn up, I do understand that moving that 40 feet, I think, as I said earlier, is a lot more imposition than digging of the road. And as much as I don't want to dig the road, I would say we're going to dig the road, and we're going to get through this. But bear in mind, in the future, when I deal with National Grid, I will be holding everything up until I have absolutely everything signed off by Jason and done, because this is twice I've had issues with DPW. The first time when they told me they've talked to DPW and they never had even talked to him, presented it to him. And this second time, where the one thing he asked for, we tried to take it casually and a gentleman's word for it, and it's not worked out that way. So I'm inclined to have this go forward as it is, because we have approved it.
They need a
Right,
road
right.
permit, it's not gonna happen today, so that's
Right.
not true.
Right or wrong, we've approved it, and we're gonna probably move forward.
You don't think we should look in the meeting minutes first?
Well, what we have is here is a text message from former Selectman Urban saying, the meeting minutes for the 5th says, don't cut the roadway. Approved as notes in industry standard practice. So according to him, our note made upon the approval is legitimate and binding, and that should have been adjusted, not into the roadway. That's what Matt's trying to tell us. And that's my feeling as well. But I still, looking at the plan, I don't think that moving this outside the roadway is wise as cutting the roadway and having the seam. And I think in the future, we're just gonna be more careful, and we'll just hold it off to another meeting in the future until it comes back amended and it's adjusted so it's not in such roadway. So, you know,
You guys have it in the meeting minutes saying not to disturb the roadway?
Yes.
But you're still gonna approve them right now?
Well, and full disclosure, my husband is a longtime employee of National Grid, okay? Retired now, but worked there from forever, whatever. The whole Marshall crowd is a bunch of National Grid people. So, while I have no personal affiliation with it, it's in full disclosure, I would have to tell you that, you know, whatever. I still don't believe that it mitigates what I think about this, but I think you're right, that litigation could be possible. I don't know what
But, you know,
Matt said at the meeting.
If we held it off tonight and we look into our minutes and we find out that it is indeed stated very clearly in our minutes to National Grid that they just can't disturb the roadway, you know, that would be also binding. That verbal agreement recorded on camera and in writing is binding. Even, you know, we signed this with the note that they're not gonna dig the roadway would mean they'd be adjusting that. And that's what Matt's suggesting. you know.
Well, as I said, I wasn't.
Matt
here-
deals with the big city stuff in Worcester all
Yeah,
the
well,
time, so
I-
he knows that end of it.
Well, I don't know if, having been in court a number of times on government
Well,
issues,
that's
I would
fine.
say that the judge would often say, okay, you people, go out in the corridor and fix this, and don't come back here. Because this is such nonsense from
We're
a litigation
not there at this
perspective.
point, though.
Oh,
I haven't heard from Dylan yet on, so I'd like to hear from Dylan before we move on with this in any way.
Well, it seems like it's sort of a rock and a hard place situation,
No pun intended?
no pun intended.
Okay.
And, you know, I want to make sure that if we're on record saying one thing on the video, and the notes say another thing, and then we approved those notes, then I don't want us to, I don't know how to say this, but I don't want us to be going down a rabbit hole of more potential trouble and push this farther out if we don't have to. So. I mean, I understand where you're coming from on this, and it seems like we need to get it done eventually. You said there are 40 or 50 incidents, or what did you call it, events?
Events, yes.
And what are the nature of those, just to get a sense of the seriousness of the claim that we need to move on this?
Well, let's just go like this, 56 events in 2020, when you add up aggregate all the customer outage minutes in 2020, almost 2.4 million hours in aggregate for all of those customers. So it's a significant.
Can you list some of those events for us, the
Some of those
locations?
could be a tree
I
down
don't
in
have
their
the-
driveway, correct?
I'm sorry.
Some of those events could be a tree down in their driveway, taken down.
Could be a
number.
number of, yeah, I'm not trying to imply,
Right.
right. Could, I
In this
just,
right away, I'd say there's two, like in the past 10 years that I can think of.
if you want me to get a specific outage, history, I have the number of events, but I can certainly get you a rundown of the type of events, date and time that they occurred, and, outage time and that sort of thing. I just have summary numbers.
Right, without that, the summary numbers are relatively meaningless to me, without knowing the specifics, because as I said, where you're going here isn't where you are now. We're talking about issues on your own right-of-way that's not maintained for whatever reason, and I don't know. I don't know why that right-of-way isn't maintained in a way that it's free and clear. But what we're at is we have the petition. I feel we had an agreement that we were gonna stay out of the roadway when we approved this. It had the caveat that it would be out of the roadway, but that hasn't been adjusted. Nonetheless, here we are. And I just will be more mindful in the future, and I would never make any more exceptions until it's changed in writing in front of me. If that means 6 more meetings to do it, that's what we'll do. But we'll make sure that anything we agree to verbally is reflected in writing and signed off by our DPW prior to the board voting anything in the future. And I don't want to keep pedaling backwards. I don't want to dig a lawsuit. I don't want to fight my side in court for this. I think my side's fine in court, but I don't want to fight it. I don't want to argue it. It seems a pain in the butt, but there's worse things in this world for us to deal with than a seam in the road. Do you have something else, or?
Yes. I would think it'd be pretty foolish of National Grid to take the litigation when it's their own company that they're looking to take a little piece of land from, which seems like they haven't even asked them if it's capable. They may ask them and they may say, sure,
Never
they
happens.
could do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have you tried? Did you try?
We've had many-
No, for this particular project. Did you imply or inquire about taking a little piece of land there? Just for a slope?
Yeah, we've been working parallel paths.
And what did they say?
So far, we don't have it.
I think it's pretty clear in my email that you weren't supposed to disturb the roadway. I think you guys are doing a little shady thing because your lawyers say that it's in the, we work hand in hand with National Grid all the time. We kind of bend over backwards for you guys all the time. I think you guys would kind of return the favor and say, well, let's look into this option. We all know in this room that at most 2 times the right of way you're trying to repair is taking power out. All those outages that you're speaking of had nothing to do with that. It was all lines that were on the roadway that's maintained by the
let's not
town.
speculate. If you want, I'll get you a series of things. I just know the experts tell me that the vast majority of outage events occur in that right of way. It's very difficult to get to. It's not the way we construct our lines anymore through right of ways as much as possible. We do everything we can to get out of them. Be happy to provide an outage history, but our folks would indicate that that's the vast majority of events, and it creates an extended outage time. It's very difficult to get to. So we just like to mitigate that and reduce outage times as much as possible. That's our goal every day. So,
We understand that. But this is not mitigating any of your outages.
I don't know how you, I mean,
I'm-
I don't have all the
I'm in-
facts
I'm
right
in
now.
town for every storm that happens here.
Did you know there was an event 2 weeks ago?
I do,
You do, you remember that?
yeah.
Because I had brought it up to Jessica, so you were aware that we had an event in our right of way,
Yeah.
around the track machine.
Yes,
Okay.
which did not,
So we're also working with
That was,
with the town on
right,
this. So for final restoration for the DPU and our rate cases in the state of Massachusetts, we only have to pay 4 feet of this trench. We can run this trench and only pay 1 foot outside of the existing trench and leave you a 250-foot street seam for the roadway. We're working with the town and saying that because it was recently paved, we've offered to pave curb to curb for the span that we've interrupted.
we also don't have to give you the permission to do it. That was something you guys agreed to for permission. So that's not
Department
working.
of Public Utilities will mandate it, and we can pay 4 feet. If we go down that road.
Let's not get into one of those contests where all we
No,
do
it's-
is get wet, okay?
Yeah. I
Well,
just don't-
anyways, this thing has apparently already been approved. They've told us as such. They've told us it's already approved, so I don't know why they came here in the first place. They seem to have absolute, conviction that it's already been approved, so we have no motion to take on it. I'm glad we got a chance to discuss it tonight, but if it's been approved and they think they're all set, then there's no reason for us to
One thing for
go
future,
any further.
what we do in other cities and towns is that before you do have a petition, you have the DPW sign off on design plans. We do that all over. I run the city of Worcester, and all of central Massachusetts, so it is done, and it will work with you in the future, but.
All right, in the future, we'll make sure the signature's on it before we even look at it. That's all. We tried to save some time for this project and do something verbally, and that was a mistake, and I'll learn from it. That's all. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to our next topic then. And the streetlight conversions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. What do we have for streetlight conversions?
That's the
Get some
LED.
Scott's gonna come up here.
Clarification
and
on
talk
that.
about it.
I had met with Jessica a couple weeks ago, or I guess we've talked about this in the last couple of months, but there's an opportunity for the town to do a streetlight conversion from high-pressure sodium, which is predominantly, is in town, and converting to LED. I will just tell you up front, I'm not a salesman, I'm not here to sell you anything. So doing absolutely nothing is completely acceptable. So your 3 options are, do nothing, purchase the streetlights from us and convert them yourselves. Some municipalities have done that. And the last option is have National Grid continue to own the streetlights like we do now and convert them to LED. What's the benefit? Probably whiter light, not probably, the reality is it's whiter light. And more reliability with them. Small annual savings on your street lighting bill. And then probably the single biggest thing is a one-time incentive to the town of in the neighborhood of $10,000. The uniqueness about the incentive, for whatever it's worth, is we actually own the equipment. So it's an interesting scenario that we have, that we actually will pay the town an incentive for equipment that we actually own. But anyway, that's the way the agreement's been drawn up, so.
More important to me than the $10,000 is how many kilowatt hours are we going to save?
I'll be happy to hand you these documents, by the way, but
Because what we're trying to do really, right, is to reduce our carbon footprint.
Right.
And if we can reduce our carbon footprint for really probably same amount of money we're currently paying. I mean, why wouldn't we do that?
About 43,000 kilowatt hours annually saved.
Okay,
45,000, depending on the option, about
It-
45,000 annual kilowatt hours. So if you're a green community, that might be something you can claim.
okay. So if we can't claim it, say, so we'll save
I
45,
imagine you can, but.
4,500 kilowatt hours?
45,000,
45,000. What's a kilowatt hour cost?
25 cents.
Okay, so 25 cents times that number really is us paying, okay, we're really paying for this, the LED lights and the new fixtures, right?
I think it would, no, well, there's no out-of-pocket cost.
Oh,
in
and it's
town.
not out of pocket, but because we're saving, our bill isn't gonna go down that much.
It's gonna go down about $2,500
A year.
annually.
Yeah, well,
I don't know if you folks want a copy. of
yes,
these.
so I would certainly be in favor of this, just basically because it reduces our carbon footprint, it is better lighting.
Sorry.
I've been in, I've participated in these kinds of programs before, and they're very useful to the people who participate. Some of you may have participated in your own homes where they come and do the audit, and they go in there and change every bulb in your place and all of that. But certainly the schools have all done this. This is all part of school progress, and saved money and gotten a small amount back, but it is better lighting for kids to learn.
Is the 45,000 kilowatts based on the 20 watt or 25 watt bulbs? Not bulbs.
See, if you look at the last two pages here with the colored documents, the fourth column over on the left, 72,578.
Yeah,
That is your current kilowatt hour consumption for the type of streetlights that are in place. If you go over to the fourth silver column over from the left, it's almost 30,000. This is with the 25 watt. Yeah, it's the second to last page. This is with the 25 watt proposal, so it goes from 72,500 to almost 30,000 kilowatt hours. The difference between those would be the savings. And then that last page is going to the 20 watt fixture.
Okay, so basically, I was just getting that for quick reference number. That's in the 25 watt. Our annual savings is gonna be $1,939. But the electrical savings is $11,250. So National Grid's picking up $10,000 less electrical supply costs per year.
yeah.
So we're paying you that $10,000
Yeah.
without using that
But
electricity.
if you do nothing, you're gonna pay it for
Which
nothing.
means that we're paying $10,000 a year towards these
Yeah,
light fixtures.
but otherwise, if you don't do it, you're paying $10,000 toward doing nothing.
Right.
Right. So I mean, not to do
You're
it.
paying 20, I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to-
go
your bill is roughly 23, almost $24,000
Currently?
currently. I'm sorry,
Well,
35,000.
Yep.
Sorry about that, 35,000.
And what it was-
Which is the last yellow column. You're paying, so on an annual basis, about $35,000.
Right.
It goes down to 33,000, that's the $2,000.
Right.
And the electric consumption,
It's all embedded though, everything.
Yeah,
point is, the
Energy.
electric consumption is gonna go down by $11,200. So we're realizing 2,000 of that, so there's 9,500 or 10,000 contribution back towards.
No, well, what it
the
is
cost.
really
It's for
is
the
that
fixtures and the bulbs.
fixture, the facility
That we
charge
don't
on the
own.
fixture actually goes up.
Yeah.
Right. That we own, you're right.
Right, that we
So-
don't know. What was the cost if we paid to put these fixtures in for ourselves?
I don't know, because we didn't do the analysis.
who's
I would-
gonna
if
put them
you-
in?
You saying if you purchase the streetlights from us and put them in?
Yeah. Or pay you to put them in, as it would have to be.
You wouldn't have that option, actually. If you purchase the streetlights, then you'd hire a vendor, because if you wouldn't be
Yeah.
working
Okay, so
on
we'd pay a
private
vendor to
equipment
put
at
it,
that
right.
point. But anyway, the point is, if I just were completely to speculate, the cost to purchase the streetlights would be really insignificant, because the lights are old and they're fully amortized. All we charge you is anything left, the book value of the streetlights.
Yeah, which is
In
nothing.
many cases, it's probably fully amortized, so there's no cost. So
I would
the
think
cost
so.
to purchase the lights would be insignificant, as low as zero, probably to a couple $1,000 if I were to completely speculate. Worst case scenario, probably $5,000. And the good news in that particular case is then you have, you know, your annual bill, you'll end up realizing tremendous savings at that point. Why? Because the facility charge that you're currently paying the utility goes away entirely. That's the embedded cost kind of for the new fixture to maintain it and for perpetuity. That it goes away so that municipalities can realize huge savings when they purchase streetlights. On the other hand, they have to now buy the equipment and they have to maintain it. So there's a pole hit tonight on a street light that you own that has a street light on it. You're responsible to, you know, we'll come replace the pole. If we have to remove any equipment on the pole, that street light goes down to the base of the pole. You have to bring a contractor in. We don't transfer the lights. It's not our equipment
Right.
at that point. So I'm just saying, you have to purchase the equipment and then you have to maintain it for perpetuity. It's, no one in town can do that. You have to have an actual licensed
Yeah.
electrical contractor that would do that work. That's OSHA qualified line worker, so it's not just, you know, anybody.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the thing that we.
I'm not saying this.
Yeah.
But my question wasn't, what's the process, it's what's the cost?
Well, I don't know because I
You're not
work
What's
for
it-
National
what-
Grid.
What's it
but
cost to
probably
National
costs
Grid
you-
to put them up?
It's hard to tell you because we just saw embedded cost, but I would probably tell you, you're probably looking at $300-400 range per fixture to purchase and install if you hired a contractor.
And we're talking
just in
about how
case.
many fixtures?
It's 200.
227.
What's the difference in lumens for the 20 versus the 25 watt?
No, it's.
So it's a
Might be able to-
seven-year payback if we buy them ourselves in our savings. Possibly even less because of the other fees that are involved.
Possibly.
Right, but then we own them. That's what it comes, that's why we didn't do it
But we don't
before.
want to own them. I would be absolutely opposed to owning them.
Right.
We don't have the equipment, and we don't have the personnel.
Depending how
If
long
we,
the
if we had our
phones
own
last.
light company, if we
Yeah.
were Holden, or if we were Sterling, I'd say absolutely.
I don't know how long the diodes last when these things go in, I don't know if they
That-
are.
but that's their
5 or
problem.
10
Typically
years.
happens is the failure rate, if they're gonna fail, is high initially.
But that's
And
your
they
problem.
can't- Right, it's our problem, but once they're installed and operational, the runtime is probably 15 years.
Mhm.
Where typically, you know, you have the nuisance, it's almost like an incandescent bulb in your house, it has a certain life, and then the bulb blows, you need a new bulb. So I would tell you that kind of stuff, that nuisance bulb blowing kind of goes away. And so you're probably, you're gonna see extended times with no events on these poles at all, which is kind of unlike the present.
So my point where if we install them ourselves, we're probably looking at 7 years to pay back the realization just to get to the point that we've paid back. That's not counting initial
Ma-
bulb blowouts and
and
things.
maintenance.
And maintenance. So we probably could be realistically 10 years out for the payback versus a bulb that's gonna last 15 years. And then we don't have to pay for in 15 years, you know. So we might get, if all went well, we'd save over 15 years, $50,000. So we'd save an additional $3,000 or $4,000 a year. But we take on all the liability and the upfront expense.
It's not worth it.
worth it.
And then that's just why I wanted to run this thing full gamut. This is why we didn't do it before, because we looked at all these expenses up front. We looked at what it was gonna cost us. We had prices from contractors to install them. And our out-of-pocket upfront money was very extreme. And the payback was so far, we didn't wanna get into it, and that's why we didn't. So, although I'd like to see that number a little higher than $1,900 a year, especially with this, the $10,500 savings, I don't know if there's some wiggle room there, if they could do a little better than that for us.
No,
but-
it's all tariff-driven, truthfully, it's not really negotiable, we're regulated by the
Regulated.
Department of Public Utilities, and so we just follow the rules.
And now you look at the old business rules, you never begrudge somebody making a buck. And the reality is, if there's, 5 years of $50,000 of profit to be made, they're gonna make that $50,000 over the course of 15 years. You know, so they're really not getting a great payback.
No.
They're doing it all to make an extra $3,000 a year that they'll make instead of us by doing the work and
Well,
taking
I mean,
responsibility.
this is a power company helping us use less power.
Yeah,
So, I would move approval of the program as presented for the replacement of
well,
our,
let's take a moment and decide if we want to do 20 or 25 watt.
well,
before we go.
well.
You don't even have to decide on that truthfully. You certainly can. What I would need from Jessica is just a letter on town letterhead said she wants to approve. I wants us to proceed with the conversion, and then she can fill out, or you folks can fill out the spreadsheet, and return that to me with your outage choices. But 1,900 lumens, by the way, for a 20 watt, and 2,600 lumens for a 25 watt.
And what are the current incandescent lights, if that's what we call them?
The difference is, when I tell you the number, you're gonna go, wow, it's significantly different. What you have to realize is high-pressure sodium degrades very quickly.
Mhm.
These things are almost flat. They don't degrade at all. The lumen output's gonna be the same. So when I tell you this number, you're gonna go, wow, that's a significant difference. It's not what you're gonna think it is. 4,000 lumens
Mhm.
So what
is
we
what a
need is,
50 watt high-pressure sodium
what
is.
we need is lumens at 30 feet from the bulb, basically, is what you're saying.
But we've kind of done the analysis, and we don't purport to be, lighting experts. Don't get me wrong, but we do believe that you can choose either a 20 or a 25 watt and get the same light output that you currently have with a 50 watt high pressure sodium.
And we said 15 to 20, 14 to 26? was it?
Yeah, 1,900, 120, and to 26.
That's a big jump. In lumens, it's gonna be a lot brighter.
Here's another option too. Again, I don't want to rush you
Mix and
folks.
match in different
I could
areas.
tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah, depending where they're
Right.
located.
I
There's
could
areas
give
we want
Jessica
more.
like maybe a couple options in a town nearby, and you could say, oh, drive by a 20 watt, I'll drive by a 25 watt to get a flavor, if you'd like to do that
Mhm.
also. Because there's no rush here. The only rush that I would tell you is this. The incentive is probably gonna go down a bit next year. If you say how much, I don't know, but
I would just think that up in the common area near our sidewalks and things, we'd want the brighter lumen outputs where there may be pedestrians and people walking around. But the rest of the areas, we have it at intersections and things. Vehicles still have headlights on, and we still have plenty of other lighting. We don't need as intense a light, where we have a light at the
I know there are
junction of 2
some lights that are privately paid for too, so that they might
right,
have.
those would not be included. It would just strictly be the municipality-owned streetlights.
And so the ones that are privately owned, they would stay with the sodium and just be.
Unless they contacted us for a conversion, but yes, they would
Okay.
stay as sodium.
Okay.
And probably, to your point, you have 2,900 watt, 100 watt fixtures, so those are probably in those high traffic areas and intersections and that sort of thing, so. But certainly, you can call the shot in terms of what you like, and if you want, I can provide that information to Jessica, and you folks can drive by and take a look and, reach a comfort level, because I'm certainly not here to have you make a decision, I just want to provide information to you.
Well, what kind of decision do we have to make to get in line? Because I know that there's a limited number of how many of these they're gonna do this year versus how many they're gonna do next year.
Not really. I will just tell you that I don't think this will surprise anybody in the room, but we have so much other non-street lighting work that these things take a little time, quite
Okay.
honestly. But the big key would be if we had if we had approval this calendar year and created an application that would lock you into that incentive. I'm just saying, rumor has it that's gonna be reduced next year. It's 25, just so you know, there's no smoke and mirrors here. Every kilowatt hour saved,
Mhm.
it's 25 cents a kilowatt hour. That's how we come up
Yep.
with the incentive amount. So that 25 cents is going down to something other than 25 cents, something less than 25 cents, so.
So you just need, like Lauren was starting, as a motion to approve this, this transfer to LEDs, and we can let you know which ones we want to do.
Certainly,
Yeah, all right.
absolutely.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I would move that we move forward with the streetlight conversion project, I guess, presented to us by National Grid representatives at this meeting, November 11, 2011. and to begin the application process as soon as practicable.
I'll second that motion, but I will note that it's November 1st,
Oh, I'm sorry, what did I say?
11.
Oh, did I? I just got that on my brain, I guess.
All right, so I have a motion to second to approve this LED conversion, modified to November 1st.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All set, thank you very
Can
much.
I just make one comment?
Sure.
I realize the previous conversation was contentious, and you folks don't know me. I know Jessica very well. I'm a community and customer manager, so I manage the relationship with our cities and towns. And if we have issues similar to this, where there's miscommunication or anything like that, I don't intend on going anywhere. I've been in this role for, well, quite a long time, actually, and so I'm happy to, if there's any issues that come up that are similar to this, happy, my goal is to satisfy our cities and towns. Yes, I work for National Grid, but my goal is to satisfy and have a good relationship with our cities and towns, so I'd really like to, if we identify stuff like this in the future, work with you folks, because we just don't want situations like this to happen in the future. And so I'm just pledging to you that, happy to give you my business card. Jessica has all my contact info to work towards making sure there's always open communication, so things like this don't happen again. And, you know, I'm not blaming anybody, you know, we'll probably.
We had clear and open communications at the time that we did it. It just didn't follow through the way we expected. And shouldn't have signed the document until they put it in writing. And I just learned from that. I don't.
But I'm just
learn
saying,
from
you know,
it.
future
But
projects,
it's-
if there's any kind of issues, I want to just make sure that we resolve those ahead of time, to your point.
I don't think we normally have problems like that. It's very unusual. But that is the second time with that gentleman I've had a problem with. The statement being made, it wasn't true to me later when I got back meeting with the DPW commission. So I'll just be very mindful of that in the future is all.
And-
It doesn't hold anything against you with this, that's just something with
Well,
him.
one thing I would request that you keep your eye on is the work itself that will be done down there to ensure that all of the, let's face it, elbows that have been thrown, everybody feels a bit better about it, and the finished work is, you know, top notch, and because obviously if the project's gonna go forward, let's make sure it's managed to death so that it's at least, I don't know, controversial as possible. You can help with that, right?
Yes, I can.
It is what it is. I'm sure Jason, he's made his statement, he was heard. He's not happy with the outcome, but I'm sure he will be amicable and sign the permit and move forward with it. I have no doubt of that. But this is, as I pointed out, this is the second time I've had issues on permits with that gentleman. And I won't forget that. I'd be foolish to,
Okay.
that's all. But
Thanks
it
very
doesn't
much.
affect us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
See you.
Okay.
Barre Savings Bank Charitable Foundation donation to 250th Committee.
Is anybody
That
here?
sounds encouraging.
Yeah, okay.
I saw Steve lurking out there earlier. Absolutely.
Is this the happiest room in Barre?
Isn't it just?
Absolutely.
How you doing,
Everybody's
Steve?
happy today. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Come grab a comfy chair.
Dr. Marshall's the only one old enough to remember the bicentennial. Take a look at it.
Hey, nice.
At least,
Very young.
at least you didn't say the centennial. Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
74, huh?
Just barely, though. She's just a mere
Just
type.
barely. You're older than I am,
Yeah,
Marie,
there
right?
you go.
I was not.
We're gonna
I
stop.
just wasn't here.
I was
And
negative 11.
why are you leaving? I want you to stay here for my song and dance. Really? Get out, you're not getting paid enough to do that.
That's very cool.
Anyway, good to see you all, good to see you all. I bring you good news, obviously. And Superintendent Marshall, Dr. Marshall, Selectman Marshall, my neighbor Marshall, she's on the Barre Savings Charitable Foundation. And I brought the data that we've done. We're now 6 years into the Barre Savings Charitable. And by the end of this year, we've got one more meeting, we will have put $400,000 back into the region for a lot of really good causes. To wit, because sometimes it's good, Greg, if you want me to go through them with you sometime, I could describe a lot of those.
Yeah, we will sometime. And I was 9, I just wasn't in this town. Not that young, but.
The new light down in front of the Barre Library, which is really, really great, was $5,000. The Shine Initiative, that does a great job for mental health issues, that we did $5,000. The Listening Center, it's kind of a secret to everybody, but the Listening Center does an awful lot of great things up there. Vanessa Marcotte, that was that jogger that was murdered in Princeton. Well, women's self-defense programs, we do $1,000 every year for that as well. The Barre Historical Society, we did $13,000 in a roof repair. And they decided, I saw that they're painting it now
Yes.
as well, which
Yep.
is wonderful. And in Barre Plains, because I know when Dylan was running, and Maureen as well, I said, it isn't just Barre, it's South Barre and Barre Plains, and be darn right about doing that. It's all one town. Because if you want them to be alert, you better want them to be tranquil as well. And so the flagpole is there, and we got requests for some benches to
Yep.
come along, and they're gonna be a very great asset. So I have the entire list. Jen, you probably should have this, and it'll show you what we have done over the last 6 years. So I'm really proud of that. So today, even though the bicentennial, the
50th, 250.
250's coming.
is 2.5 years away, you need seed money. And one of the things that Barre Savings Charitable Foundation wanted to do was make sure that we have a class function, that this is a really good parade, events, and because I did live through the 200th, it really brings the town together. It really brings a lot of people together. People will have to grow beards sometimes, they did in the 200th, you know. 2 of you guys already got a head start on that.
It's that time of year.
And any number of things that the bicentennial will do. It really does bring a town together. You guys remember it, obviously you two guys were part of that. And so we want to present them through you. The town gets it, but because this town honors their commitments, it will be filtered to them for a check for $5,000 to begin this process.
Very nice, thank you.
And we'll set that down for the photo op in a moment. But Nika Jenkins is here with a couple of wonderful people, a former selectwoman who we know very well, you know, Kathy Inman. And they are doing incredible things. And people will say, well, what is happening? Well, you ought to talk to Nika and the Q Drug group. And the bottom line is, you got an alternative? We got kids dying. You know, Nika Jenkins had 5 kids die of overdoses on Dana Road, on her road.
Jesus.
5 kids on Dana Road over the last few years. You know, this is a scourge in our society that we need to do what we can. Now, she is working very diligently to leverage a boatload of money. A boatload of money. She could talk to you about that in that regard. And so the foundation is going to do $15,000 as seed money for leveraging state, and she's got federal grants to come as well. I think the people of Barre ought to be very proud of the work that they are doing, because again, you got an alternative, and if you don't, then get on board and do our very, very best. So I've been to the wakes. I'm sure you have, Maureen. They're heartbreaking. Young people losing the cream of the crop of our society in this regard. So let's do that. So if you will. You know, this is going to be the happiest moment of the night for you guys. You know?
That isn't high, that's a low bar right
So
now.
if the 250th group will go and stand with the select
We've had a
person.
challenging night so far.
I've heard it.
If it wasn't for Narcan, that death number would be.
I told Jason that he's gonna get a generator.
How do you want to do it for pictures? Do you want me to do it for you?
Yeah, well,
What's better, you want to do it by the emblem?
Yeah.
Type back here, we
I think the
can.
presentation is going to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
accepted it, it goes.
yeah, you go. So I want
So
the
we need
select.
probably Rich up front anyways.
They don't have to run for
Can we
it.
push your chairs over? Can we make room and get the
Rich, you
chairs?
take the check.
You wanna do it?
Back of them.
All right, let me scoop it.
Yeah, push them backwards like this maybe in the corner, then you come around too. We'll see if we can get a whole opening here. We'll get it.
We can do it.
We'll make it. Is Steve coming in here?
I'm pretty shy about having my
Come on, get in here, Steve. You're gonna be handing this check over to him.
I don't know if they can get it in, back up.
Well, you have the camera that we can turn to
Yeah,
the
well,
mouth.
Steve should be handing the check
We
to.
should be handing the
You
check.
should be handing the check to Rich. Let's do it that way. And we'll all kind of turn in, how's
Yeah,
that?
that's good, Jay.
That's what we want.
Okay, then.
Nice, nice.
Got
You
it?
got that? All right, good job, guys. Now we need good luck.
Now we need-
the operation.
We'll
Nika.
really, really
We
try.
need Nika in here.
And
Accept that as a donation.
Jen, you take, Jen, you
Excellent.
get
We'll
this
make
to
a vote to
the,
accept it and
get
move
that
it
to the,
to your account.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
and,
Thank you very
Nika,
much.
and come on over, Kathy.
Thanks, Rich.
Dick, bring her back here too, or?
Yeah, we're gonna scoot over.
I didn't recognize you from the. Oh, yeah.
Good, good.
All right, we do this again.
Nika up in the middle
Yeah.
again?
Nika, get over here. Nika.
I'm doing it.
All right, everybody smile.
All righty. If you can't fit me in, that's okay.
Gotta be in the picture.
Oh, we got you.
Thanks, this one goes to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Make
you
sure
very
I'll
much,
send it to
Steve.
you.
All right,
Yes,
bud,
please.
appreciate it.
Get that on the
Thank you.
Always.
site.
Thank you,
Always
Senator.
out of trouble. All right, we'll roll the chairs
Superintendent,
back.
always good to see you.
Thank you, same here.
Okay.
Greg, anytime you wanna come to the house, I give you a lesson in life.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thanks for coming in.
Kathy.
Sorry it took so
I know
long.
what that smile is saying, better you than me, right?
Yeah, I know, I was out of state.
I'll make a motion to.
Thank you, thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye. All right, good.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the $5,000 donation on behalf of the 50th Anniversary Committee.
Second?
Motion and a second to accept the check, and I assume put it into the 250th committee account?
Yes.
Okay, motion second to accept the check and put it in 250th account. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic, that's a good start.
Yes, they've been doing really well with their fundraising too, so.
That's good.
Right, and.
They've got a lot of funds to raise, though.
Yeah, I know.
Listen, the charitable foundation should give them more, too.
I wanna.
They should be asking for $5,000 every round,
Yeah, I
in
wanna.
my opinion.
We'll see. I'm debating if we want to try to put some money in
I
on the
think we should
warrant
do-
toward it.
I think we should
or
do
if
that as well.
Or if we want to let people fundraise first and not think, we're just going to tax them for it. You know, I mean, if fundraising's going well and we don't have to, then we'll let it go.
Well, I think we should make a statement that it's important by doing some modest gift to
Well,
start it.
we can, if it's.
And bail them out at the end if they need
We
to.
put it on the annual town meeting. We
Yeah.
have a hunk
Yeah.
of free cash, and we say, okay, this is for the town to discuss and talk about.
Yeah.
And see what they're willing, and
Yeah.
we can give them a couple options.
Yeah.
We have options A and B. We have two articles. We're gonna
Yeah.
put one and drop one. One's for 5, one's for 10,000.
Jesus, you're
One's going
cheap.
up. Well, we got a couple of years. We can do it a couple of times. But it lets them put something into it, and we'll get there. But they're doing a good job fundraising. I don't know. I should have asked Rich how they did at the event they had in the Common, because I'd be
They
curious.
did, I think they did very well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what the numbers are.
See, I don't know how much they actually make. They make an amount per table. But, you know what I mean? Just because I sell a lot of hand knitted whatever I was making, doesn't mean a darn thing. I paid X for the table.
Right.
And so that's what they get for,
Well, I
you know.
just bought raffle tickets, gave them both
Yeah,
sides
so
of the
they get
tickets,
that.
so they keep it if they win.
Yeah,
And I bought a
so-
couple of T-shirts, and
Yeah, so
so I
that
know
kind
they
of
get
stuff.
that money completely, so I hope they sold a lot of shirts and sold a lot of raffles, but I
Yeah.
didn't stay around to find out. But we'll keep moving on. CMRK Textile donation bins. This is something that gets sent, I don't know if it's sent to everyone, but I
Yeah.
forwarded it to Jessica to look into it. It looks like a charitable collection. That we'd have to approve locations in town for them to put these bins out, which I'm
Correct.
sure we've all seen them, like Salvation Army bins and the sort of thing
Yeah.
like that, but
They
not
have suggested
Salvation.
times and so forth.
Right, so this is a newer organization. I believe they bought Big Brother, Big Sister, so they're just trying to move into our region. And so essentially what's gonna happen next November is there's gonna be a textile waste ban that goes into place in Massachusetts, and that will mean that you can't throw out your clothes anymore. Not that I think anybody should be throwing out their clothes at this point, because most of the time they are in some kind of condition to donate. But having these bins in town, there were some proposed locations. That's not an all-inclusive list. Obviously, the board can decide on where on public property that you guys want those donation bins to go. But there is an incentive. One, they will do scheduled curbside pickup. So if you were to call and you wanted them to come to your house, they will do so. But then there's also the donation bins where if we host one of these bins on site, we will get 7 cents per pound back to the town as revenue for hosting the donation bin, and there's no expense to the town to have the donation bin, and they will come weekly for pickup and they're out of Northborough, so.
I'm familiar with the company, and they do a reasonably good job from everything I've understood. The problem that I always find with these, bins or whatever, is the slobs that bring whatever they want, a baby seat that they can't do anything with, a TV that they don't want, a mattress, and they throw it and lean it up against, the bins. And then, I know down at Hardwick where they have some of those clothing bins, they now have all kinds of cameras around because of people leaving whatever. Over in Hubbardston, they have some bins, 3 big mattresses laying up against the side of them. That's the problem that I worry about, is they end up with all kinds of stuff around them that the companies don't want and don't necessarily take when they come to pick up, the clothing that is put in there. Did they take shoes as well? Or is it just textiles?
There's a.
Oh, yeah, they take.
Okay.
Yeah. No furniture, no electronics, no broken defective items. Well, good luck with that, because people will leave furniture and such there. I worry because in so many places, they're just an eyesore because they have so much junk around them. I'm willing to give them a try and see if our public is better than other areas, and that they, I would be surprised if the schools were into that at all,
Yeah.
putting a bin on the school property.
Well, I
because-
wouldn't recommend putting it on the regional school district because
Yeah.
I don't believe you have the
Yeah, supposedly.
authority to
But I mean,
put it there.
if
But
asked, they would probably be nice about it, but.
there is, we do have cameras, exterior cameras at the public safety building.
And you
That's
have
the
exterior
only-
cameras, I believe, at Ruggles Lane as well, but
Yeah, I think you're
I think-
right.
I think we
Yeah,
do.
I think you're
I don't know
right.
if there's appropriate lighting for wherever you're gonna place it, but anyway.
So,
Well, public safety also, there's less likely to someone come dump a mattress.
Yes.
I agree with you, I agree with you.
There's really not any room at the firehouse in Station 1.
No.
And Station 2, you're right in the parking lot
Yeah.
with the post office. We could certainly do one up here.
We have our nice big parking lot, plenty of,
We just have, the
light.
same thing, if you're uptown, you're under the lights, people are less likely to do it. So I don't know how many locations they're looking for,
just one.
just one.
Oh, just one?
At least
Oh.
to start with, I would say
Oh,
just.
okay. I didn't know
just
if you were
one.
looking for more than one. I figured they were gonna put a couple around town.
I
think we can
look into a
expand.
contract or something? Like, is
There-
it a year-to-year thing? How
There's
does it
a
work?
MOU that's in there, and I believe it just says, if we don't want this service anymore, we give them like a 30-day notice and
So
they
they can
will.
pick it up.
Right, we
Come
don't have
pick up
any
the
real
bin.
responsibilities except for,
Yeah.
just,
No.
support them and be good with it here, We don't have to do anything special. But I would say maybe we give them 2 locations, we give them a place in the parking lot here and a place at DPW, at Public Safety Building.
Okay.
And obviously, I'd say talk to, the rear part of that building is for police only, out back for the Sally Port and things. There'd be someplace out in that front area.
Right.
And I'd talk to the chiefs,
Right.
Laurel, and see where it's gonna be least in the way, because
Mhm.
I don't know how much room they really need with the fire trucks, but I would think away from that bay and
Right.
not in the our building side, but the back side of the lot should be
Right.
pretty easy to do up there.
Mhm.
And then once again, up here, we can pick a location pretty easy and let them give it a try, and if we don't have issues, we don't have issues. But it's a good idea, it helps people, a lot of people have things they'd like to donate. It
Right.
keeps stuff out of the dump. and
Yeah.
The transfer station, and so.
I think there are bins for clothing and stuff down at the landfill, I think, right?
There are, I talked to the Board of Health and there's a Salvation Army one
One
down
there.
there. So she gets points, towards that go towards, grants, essentially,
Okay.
at the end of the year, however many points she gathers. They equate to some kind of benefit for the town, so I believe this year with our points, we got like the reusable bags, and
Oh.
she's able to buy some like recyclable, things. So she gets that kickback from that incentive, and she believes that she may be able to get the incentive from this company as well. Essentially, it's not the company that gives them us the
Right.
incentive, it's the state
The
that
state.
gives us the incentive for having them.
Yeah, I'm not really into it for the money, because it's not that much
No,
in
I
it, but
agree.
I
No.
think the ability to let people recycle,
Is a great
and
thing.
help other folks with it is well worth, you know, the project.
Okay, great.
Okay? I'll just make a motion then that we approve this partnership.
I move
With
approval
that.
of the partnership put together and presented by Jessica Sizer for CMRK Textile donation bins.
Right, I'll second that.
Motion is second to approve the partnership and allow these bins. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, we'll call for a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have Dennis Fleming, Council on Aging. Let's go first with Patricia Sirius, resignation from Council on Aging.
So I think that these happened accidentally at the same time. So her resignation didn't trigger this alternate appointment because this.
Just coincidental?
It was coincidental.
So that, so that.
So now there's a
position open.
position open
So
for the COA.
Patricia Sirius has tendered a letter of resignation from the Council on Aging. And
Dennis Fleming is
we
the
would, of course, accept her letter of resignation and thank her for her service.
Mhm.
As always, it's appreciated when anybody steps up and does any kind of donation of their time to any of these town entities. So we do appreciate her service, and we will accept her resignation. And that brings us to Dennis Fleming asking to be appointed part-time and full-time if a position comes available.
Right.
And I assume that's a full-time position that's now available.
Yep.
So I would, if anyone we'll look for a motion, then we can discuss if we need to after.
A motion to appoint Dennis Fleming as an alternate to the Council on Aging.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to appoint Dennis Fleming as an alternate council on agent. Do we have any further discussion? To that end, was this an alternate position or a full-time position that just resigned?
So the
Alternate.
resignation was a full-time
Oh,
resignation.
it was, oh, okay. So-
So we could, and then appoint Dennis to the position. Or do you have him?
He emailed.
Oh, did he?
Is he interested?
Well, he said here he'd like the full-time if it becomes
Oh,
available.
okay, then we're all
So
set.
that's,
Oh, yeah, he wants to be considered for a
Right.
full position.
right, and he did say that, so if you'd
I'll
like
make
to.
a motion, we appoint Dennis Fleming to a permanent, or a full-time position on Council of Aging.
Okay, so we're gonna abandon our last motion then,
Yeah.
and we will have a new motion to appoint Dennis Fleming to the full-time position.
Yes.
And do we have a second?
Second?
Motion is second to appoint Dennis Fleming to the full-time council on aging position. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent.
Thank you, Dennis.
And School Choice Week proclamation.
Yes, so, this was another email that I had received from Greg about a school week proclamation, for the board's consideration. It's, I forget who sent it to us?
National
I think
School
it was
Choice Week.
Yeah, I didn't.
San Rafael,
Yeah,
It was an
Dr. Marshall
organization.
probably has a better understanding what that is about. It came to me and I wanted to get it to here, but whereas
I've
they would
never,
like us to make a statement that they had suggested language that would say, whereas Barre should have access to the highest quality education possible, and whereas recognizes the important role of effective education plays in preparing all students in Barre to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of Barre, and whereas Barre is home of a multitude of high-quality public and non-public schools from which parents can choose for their children in addition to families who educate their children in the home, and whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas Barre has many high-quality teaching professionals in all types of school settings who are committed to educating our children, and whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options, now therefore, I would say, where it says my name, we, the Select Board of Barre, do hereby recognize January 23rd to 29th, 2022 as Barre School Choice Week, and I call this observation to the attention of all of our citizens. That is the language they're looking for. Since the education was certainly right up your alley, I'd like to know your opinion of that.
Well,
if
I would
that
just
is
say,
pretty
first time
normal.
I've ever heard of being a national group for, sort of celebrating school choice.
Right.
I would tell you that, just to be honest, as far as the Quabbin Regional Catchment Area, the 5 towns, you have a couple towns within the Quabbin District who are absolutely adamantly opposed, Selectmen, to school choice, because they feel that Quabbin takes in too many school choice kids. We don't lose as many, we take many more students in than we ever lost to school choice.
And we could use a lot more because our
Yeah.
numbers are down.
Yeah, well, that's the way we feel. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I just want you to know that probably if you see maybe New Braintree or somebody like that, they may say, how come you guys voted that? Because Maureen's on there now, right? So I'm not, I've just never heard of this. I've just never,
Right, and a multitude of schools, I mean, basically, we really have,
oh,
we have the Tech and we have Quabbin. We
Yeah.
don't, Stetson School isn't something that's, it's option, we
Well, it's
certainly
an op-
hope that we don't have our
yeah.
citizens.
But I mean, we
because
have,
they-
certainly, school choice is as a program in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We participate in it as a school district for Barre and for the middle high school, as you know, have since its inception. Obviously, we try to encourage those students who wish enrollment in vocational schools. We try to make that happen for them. So I would say that we definitely, as a school district, have supported these values and so forth. It's just whether or not you, as a select board, want to say, yeah, I think we should say it, but I'm just saying that there are some towns that surround you that think we should never take another student for any reason.
Right, and there are many towns that opt out of school choice. In
Yep.
general, the students go there only, it's only towns that opt to
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah.
Now, if we were in a regional district, if it was just a Barre school system, we would decide if we want to participate in
Yes.
school choice or not. But that's what
The school committee-
That's
the
what our
school
school
committee,
committee does
yes,
for our
yeah.
district. So our district is involved in it.
Yeah, so,
Doesn't mean we have to support it.
yeah.
However,
Well, but I think we do
know.
support the idea that kids could have the
I
opportunities.
certainly do
I do
support
too.
it, so I mean, it's,
I'll say that I find it odd and, I don't wanna say insulting, but a little presumptuous for this National School Choice Week organization, whoever they are,
Whoever they are,
to send a form email
to everybody.
to
no, it was meant to
Probably
me.
every-
Oh, did you all receive it? Because it was sent to myself,
I didn't receive
titled
it,
to me.
but they obviously just go through and they find out who's the head honcho,
Right.
and then they just send it out. My guess is that then they use this data to say how important and how, widespread their successes have been. I've never heard of the
Yeah.
organization.
I don't feel comfortable signing off on whoever these people are from San Rafael,
This-
California.
This comes from Andrew Campanella, president of the School Choice Week, and they have a.
I don't think it makes one bit of difference to the regional school district that services our children. They already participate heavily in this, and I don't think this was a proclamation that we need to have another week to celebrate something.
So the,
I'd prefer to take no action.
okay, well, it's fair enough, because if, I mean,
Works for me.
I don't mind in saying we are pro-school choice, but to go along with Dylan saying, we don't know what this company's agenda is.
Exactly.
And throwing our support behind it, we don't know exactly what it is we're supporting with their organization in general.
I can email every select board in the state too if I want and ask them to sign
Oh,
the letter
absolutely.
that I write. And that doesn't mean that I should be writing that letter or that
Or-
they should be writing it just because I sent it to
Yeah.
them.
They claim in their cover letter, I don't know if you've got the cover letter, okay, so. They claim they're just raising awareness, and of course, they're gonna have that awareness anyways, because we're talking about it this evening.
Well, because it
I
could be,
don't
it could
understand
be
the-
somebody really pushing private schools, saying that, that we should use public funds to pay private school tuitions. could be somebody who's, you know, pursuing that course of
I
action.
don't know.
I don't
I
either,
don't know.
so
So with-
you're probably wise to give us that counsel,
Yeah.
Dylan, not to pursue it,
So although I think we all agree we support school choice.
as
don't-
we understand it.
We don't understand what this proclamation organization represents, so we can publicly say we support
Yeah.
school choice.
Yeah,
But we will not
right.
endorse the proclamation department.
Is, is that what it says?
Yes.
Proclamation Department?
Somebody's trying to do something without knowing what, to what end.
Mhm.
It's, I think Dylan's right, we'll,
I don't want our little town being used as some
Say, I
kind
feel
of
like
pawn in
that's-
a, in a
there's,
big game.
there's no harm in making a statement, but it throws just our support behind something which may tick off a bar
Well,
for a vote or
as we
something.
understand it, it seems okay, but as they are trying to use it,
We don't know.
we don't know.
Right, so,
So,
of course,
I-
we support our school choice in our local district.
yeah,
And we'll leave it at that.
yeah.
We don't need to support their week for it. Okay, last mile residential broadband internet expansion proposal under old business.
Yes, so this is what I brought up last time. It's somewhere in your packet.
Yeah, it's just, this is
I
the one.
unfortunately didn't go back and look for the minutes yet. I
So-
have to do that.
I went back and I read the minutes, and there was no discussion about a quote for this proposal. And then I went back and I watched the video, and she actually, it was hard to hear her because it was coming off of the speakers from the computer, but she did say, I don't have a quote for you tonight, so.
Right.
Right.
But she said, for the 75, we came, I said 60-something, we totaled 75, and we came up with a figure of 120 some odd $1,000. That was what was stated to us. We don't have a quote for you tonight because we don't know what portion national that they're gonna pay for it, that our charter's gonna pay of that. That's what I recall. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch that whole thing and see what that is again, because that was my takeaway, and it's, you know,
I don't think
I have
that.
a relatively good retention on the things I say verbally, just as I did with National Grid. I recall what we said and what we did, and Matt supported it. Matt found that in the minutes to what we did discuss and what was promised from that company at the time, which they didn't follow through on. And I'd be surprised if I'm mistaken.
So, she specifically said, I don't have a quote for you or a proposal, and I had talked to her beforehand, and she had said the same thing, is that we don't know the final number, and it would be, I mean, to think that it would only be $120,000 would just be,
Which is why we're all flabbergasted, as was our guest here for fiber optic. There's no way they can do that for that number.
but that, she explicitly said that they didn't have the quote for us, so it wasn't going to be 120.
Right. What she'd said is she had done their expense, and they weren't giving us a quote because they would cover a portion of that. And she led us to believe at that time that the total cost was 120, of which a portion they would pay, then they would give us a quote. They insinuating there's gonna be less.
Less than 120.
I apologize for not getting to that. I meant to do that last night. I've had a very busy last couple of days, unfortunately.
Well, I think if the quote was going to be, I mean, if anybody had expected the quote to be so low, I mean, the last quote that the town got, and granted it
I
included
understand.
cable, was like $750,000. And so this quote for, I believe it's $320,000.
Well, the labor's 383, and the total is 459, or?
Yeah,
is-
over which
So-
130 they're allowing, which leaves us 320
Yeah.
or some odd thousand, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
Um,
And the
It
other
is-
company.
It is far lower than they said before, yes, and I understand that. And we see your numbers, I have it, I appreciate it.
well, I think quite frankly, it is very difficult for us to pay $100 and some odd $1,000 for 8 houses, and we won't even take a twirl at the $333,000 for 80.
Which
I mean-
includes Spring Hill Road.
Yeah.
It includes Spring
This
Hill
one
Road too.
includes Spring Hill Road?
So the residents on Spring Hill Road will have access to either choose
Right.
DG Matrix or Spectrum.
Well, do we have to bother with Matrix at all?
You guys already approved that spending,
That's too bad,
so-
yeah. Because, I mean, we're gonna provide, it doesn't matter, it is what it is. But I mean,
And I'm still not opposed to doing our study with Matrix and letting the town decide if they want to have a second service, depending where those numbers come, because Matrix would eat a lot of those costs if they're gonna own the wires. If they, if we own them, we're paying everything. If they own them, they're
Well-
gonna eat a lot of the costs.
Well, this is if well,
Because more of the
Charter-
same, more of
Charter
the
will
same
own
charter
these.
we have right now is nothing great.
I agree, it's not fiber optic, I agree, but
The outages we have and people complain about all the time
Yeah.
for long
I
durations.
I would be
multiple times
shocked,
a
though,
day.
if Matrix can come anywhere near those 80 homes
They
for
won't.
that kind of money.
Not even close.
Well, I would doubt it.
I mean,
But the thing is, they're not just gonna have those 80 homes, and when they're gonna come across those 80 homes, and 90% of the town's gonna be offered fiber. That's the
Agreed.
difference. If the number comes out at the $700,000, and 90% of Barre has the option of fiber, 90% of Barre may say, we'll pay that money.
mhm.
And they may be willing to look into that and find a way to do it, to get another option. Because I think most people, if they're offered to keep their service for their $80 a month with Charter, or pay another 15 and get fiber optic and better connection speed and everything, they're gonna do it in a heartbeat.
Well,
And I think that's gonna be the opinion of most people. So I do wanna continue our research into what it's gonna cost and get the numbers for the fiber optic, because I think the town may be interested in that.
yeah,
Just
well,
because, like I said,
I just don't want to
we're
be
not
sitting
gonna-
here
yeah,
2 hours, 2 years from now.
This number is because
Worrying about what we're doing.
they're just hitting those last houses.
Yeah.
The other was gonna be larger for them, but what he was explaining when he was in the room is that to get those last houses, he wants to try to pass by 90% of our residents
Yeah.
in the process. So the number he gives us to get there is also gonna run by 90% of our homes. And if people start calling up, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up, they're all gonna get that discounted rate for sign up,
Well,
that $300 or $400 instead of the huge connection fee later. And there's gonna be something in it for them and something in it for the town, but we don't know. And I
Yeah.
want the town to have the right to choose that. I don't wanna.
Well, what I
this
want to
a
do
choice
is, I
don't
want to say to
wanna make with the
Matrix, we need some idea yesterday, because this will not be a number that stays more than 6 or 8 months, I wouldn't think. We're gonna
No,
have to
but I-
move on this one way or
But
the
you know,
other.
humor me, I go
Oh,
back.
Greg,
to-
I always do that.
It's hard not to, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I'm very humorous. If we go back to the meeting and we listen to it and we find out that I'm correct, that she pitched us as, yep, we have the expense for these last 75 homes, our expense is 120,000, but I'm not giving you a price yet because you won't pay all of that, we'll cover. And she really told us it's only 120 and we're gonna cover a portion. And now they suddenly jumped $300,000 because it's use your CARES Act money. I have a
Well-
problem with that. If that was the case, then I'd talk to my state rep about that.
Matrix is
and
telling you
say,
it's 100-something thousand to do 8 houses.
Well, once again, when Charter, I'm sure, came into Barre, they bought the pole rights to everything.
They may have, I don't know.
They already own it. So all they have to do is say,
Right.
okay, we own it, we're gonna run the wire and hook it up. We don't have to get permission and have a study. It's
Well, Matrix doesn't
done.
own any of it.
They have to do everything from scratch, and that's the difference.
Exactly.
Charter owns the right, I would believe, and
If-
they would tell me if I'm wrong, to every pole in town
If the cheap
already.
thing is really running the wire, which I was surprising to hear, that there's cheap to do that, once
Right.
you've got all the other thing. It's probably cheaper over time for Charter to end up giving you the fiber optic, which I'm guessing they're doing as a matter of just getting into the 21st century, ultimately.
We're such a small number of people compared to them hitting someplace like Worcester or
Oh,
Springfield. or
admittedly.
Anything close to Boston, any
Well,
town.
I agree.
So they're never gonna bring fiber here. They're not gonna do it. There's no incentive for them to give us any more. The amount of extra money they'll get out of us for all their effort to run fiber, they'd rather do it somewhere else and get.
But it's gonna get to the
This is
point
why we haven't,
where we can't do anything without having fiber optic.
which
I mean,
is why.
the phone is gonna be to the point where you say, I can't use it in Barre. Well,
Which
that's
is
not gonna
why
fly.
we need our number for the fiber, and we need to present it to the town at town meeting.
Yeah, you're talking about waiting another 8 months till town meeting?
No, I'm talking in addition.
Oh, okay, a special town meeting?
I'm talking that we're probably gonna do this anyways, one way or the other. I'm hoping that
Well,
I'm hoping I'm gonna prove that they said 120 grand and they just flipped it
No,
over
I don't
for
think-
CARES Act.
I don't
Well,
think they did, but.
But either, we're probably gonna get that done, like you said, it's far less than the $800,000 they quoted us for 2/3 of this work a few years ago.
I agree.
If that was a number they gave us 2 years ago, we'd already have this done.
Mhm.
We got 100,000 at town meeting to put, which we just dumped in the fiber to start.
Yeah.
But, and you could say, oh, too bad, we just wasted that money, but we didn't, because without that 100,000, that number was 800.
I agree.
or more, or $1 million.
Well, I mean, if
So we've
Matrix.
only got that 'cause we spent
what's-
100
What's the
grand.
timeframe for Matrix getting us information about that?
I'll have to follow up with them on that, because I haven't heard anything
I know
other
that-
than,
I know
just
that-
the contract that we have with them for
Yeah,
Spring Hill.
they're very busy,
Right.
but let's move it.
So, I still wanna hold off on one more meeting for this and get a chance
yeah,
to
sure.
listen to that. Because if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong and say what I heard, and I heard 120,000 or something, I'll find out what the 120 was for, and how I
She might
mistook
have, she
it.
might have thought that this 120 was,
Well,
this to this.
She did mention that 120, and it's hard, again, to hear what she said cost $120,000, but I know, based off of my conversation with her beforehand, that there was a portion of the cost that she had a good idea, and I think it was 160, not 120. There was a portion of those costs that she knew would cost 160, but she knew that wasn't the full picture of the quote.
Well, anyway, we can find that out.
In
I
my
guess.
recollection is strictly the full picture was because they were gonna own a portion of the number she gave us, it was gonna be less than that.
Oh,
actual
she
number
does, she
brought in.
says, she says that up there, that's where
I know.
136
But the
comes from.
number the number I'm talking about that I heard, I'll find out what it was, I will go back. Do you have the date of that meeting, Jessica, so it'll be easier for me instead of me plowing through meetings to find it?
What's the date of that email?
This one here,
Yeah.
October
September
1st. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Wait,
the
wait.
top one is October 1st, the second one down is September 20th.
That, I think it's September 20th was that meeting, because I think I got it that same day that we had that. No. She made her proposal before I got that quote, so maybe it was the September 13th, or September 6th meeting? September 7th? September 8th, that's right, that's when that meeting was.
So we're just not doing anything about that at this point in time?
So we have-
Well, let's see if you can, jingle Matrix and see what's their time frame.
So you think September 8th is a meeting this is on?
I believe so. I can double check though.
I'm gonna go through it and listen, I meant to before tonight, as I said, it's just been, had some personal issues this weekend that just took time. Yeah, so let's table that for now, I agree, let's see what we hear from Matrix, and give them a jingle, see if they have any idea, and how long till they can give us their proposal for hitting some town. It's gonna be a while, because obviously they're gonna look at the routes to go, but I'd just like to have a timeline, so we can also have an idea of when we're gonna bring it to the town. So we have meeting minutes from October 18th, 2021, and executive session from the same date, not for release.
Right.
Has everyone got a chance to look through these? I'll take a motion then on either or both, however you want to put them.
Make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes from October 18th, 2021, and we also approve the meeting minutes from the executive session, not to be released, from October 18th, 2021.
Thank you.
Second?
Motion a second to approve both the meeting minutes and executive session not to be released. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah. Correspondence.
Yes.
I'll do Dean's first here. Dean Iandoli sent us a letter. Just want to let you know CPC is issuing a check for the amount of $7,418 to town as our next Community Coast Agreement payment sent via USPS. I assume you've got it by now.
We received it today.
And you please advise them when you receive it, you've done so. And he's just giving us notice that they're making another payment. So that's 2 payments this year. Was, I think the first one was
The
14,000?
last one was November of last year.
November of last year.
Yep.
Oh,
So
geez.
it's just,
I thought that we already did one this year. That's
No.
funny, all time flies. So, that's very good, we've received it. And that is, unfortunately, the expansion won't continue down there. They've pulled up their intention to expand their production here in town, so that will be the extent of the funds we see from that. Next, we have a letter. I would go to the clerk to read the letter, please.
Letter from Pie Town.
From Pie Town.
You got it right there, yeah. This letter is a request for consideration of an abatement on our liquor license fee that is due up for the coming year. We recently acquired our liquor license on July 13th, 2021, at which time we paid the requested full annual amount of $971.25 to the town of Barre for the license. We're requesting a one-time reduction in the cost of the license for the upcoming 2022 annual fee, due to the fact that we obtained our license for only 6 months in 2021 and were required to pay the full yearly annual amount. We at Pie Town are a new startup company in Barre and are beginning to obtain a wonderful base of customers. Having to pay the full amount will put a financial strain on our business, especially with the increasing purchase costs of all meats, produce, paper, plastic supplies, and other products. We're requesting consideration for our liquor license payment for 2022 to be the prorated sum of the 6 months that we're actually able to utilize our liquor license for what physical year of 2021 would have been. So they're looking to have an abatement of $485.
So not so much an abatement really
Right,
as,
just
as a
equal
reduction
amount.
for next year equal to
Right.
instead of an abatement. Full disclosure, I stopped in there finally and had a pie. It was very good. And they asked me about the liquor license stuff. I said, I don't know. I don't know if there's a policy. I don't know if there's anything you can do, but you know what? Put it in writing to the board, send it to the administrator, and the board can
Well,
talk about it and
Let me
decide.
ask this, when you give an annual license, is it from date of delivering the license? And thus this, it's just, that makes no sense. So if I got a liquor license on
Runs the
December 15th.
fiscal year, correct?
So
It's not our fiscal year, runs
Calendar year.
January calendar year.
So you mean if I got a liquor license on October?
Now.
Yeah, now I would have to pay for a year?
Yes.
Well, no, not necessarily, because this month
We-
and last month, we're in renewal cycle. So we would, so at the advisory, because we're just doing it with the Barre Art Center, at the advisement of the state is that we just issue the liquor license
For 2 months?
in the new year for
Oh,
the.
okay.
We issue the liquor licenses before January 1st, essentially.
Okay.
They're effective when they're received, but no later than January 1st to December 31st, because that's just the way that the ABCC
And
does it.
The reason I suggested they write a letter to us to talk about it, my personal pet peeve has happened to me many times in the past, especially when I had a large dump trailer, I was paying about $250 a year to register.
Yeah.
I put it on the road in October, paid the state $250. Boy, wasn't I happy when 2 months later I got a bill for $250 to do it again. I'm like, come on, a sixth of the year? You could have charged me $50.
Oh, yeah. I'm
But they
surprised
don't,
they
and I think that's,
That does seem ridiculous.
it
to
does,
me.
and I think it's wrong for someone to pay, especially if we want businesses to come into town
Yeah.
and
Well,
and move in.
do we set the rate?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And I admit that's high because of me. It used to be $125. I said, that's ridiculous.
I think it's competitive.
It is now. But I know like out in Groton, at the golf course, they have a little restaurant. And they have a big function hall that the town used to lease out. And they're letting the restaurant do the functions instead. So they pay their $2,000 or $3,000 liquor license and another $2,000 or $3,000 for the building right next door.
Oh.
So
Well, that's
we're,
broad.
we're certainly fair at almost $1,000, but the 100 was ridiculous, and we don't want to have 65 liquor licenses in town, so
Oh,
a
you
higher
can't.
license. And I talked to them, I said, if the fee was 2,000, half your competition disappeared, they go, that'd be great. I said, well, exactly, but we don't want to cut everyone out of it. But I thought it was worth putting up here for consideration. In my opinion, I think it's fair if we had prorated, but we didn't, so that credit towards this year's I'd be okay with.
I would as well. I mean, if it's legal, I would.
Yeah.
It's our rate, it's our
Yeah.
fee,
Yeah.
it is. So we can give them a one-time adjustment in lieu of the 6 months last year that they didn't have
Yeah,
it.
right.
So I look for a motion, I'm not looking at the number right now, but
I'd move that we grant Pie Town the $485.63
reduction
reduction
this year only.
this year only.
You want to say as requested in their October 18th,
Yeah.
2021 correspondence to us?
As requested in their correspondence dated October 18th, 2021.
Excellent.
Second?
We have motion and second to approve their one-time reduction to show their lack of use of the permit last
Yeah.
year. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Any of the CPC hosts, we have a select board reports. Does anybody have anything?
I have nothing other than
Different?
something for executive session.
Okay.
I'll just say that the trunk or treat last night seemed like it was a pretty big success. It was really nice to see so many people out and absolutely wonderful weather, and it was just a really,
Squeaked out that one, Jessica.
I didn't, I
Oh,
was there.
Oh, no, I meant
What
if,
do you mean?
no, I meant.
Oh, the weather.
Oh, the weather-wise,
Weather-
yeah.
weather-wise.
Yeah. It was good
No, because I mean, it
weather.
was raining, and then finally.
It was.
And we even had rain that day.
Yeah, a little bit in the
My
morning.
girlfriends in Dudley, they had rain in Dudley while the trick or treat, and they got wet. So we lucked out here. We
Yeah.
really did. It was good. I saw, I think, 375 kids and 200 adults for the adult treats at my house. So that's a pretty big year for me.
I had no one.
Well,
No,
well, you should have opened your trunk in the common.
Well,
That's-
that's an
see,
option, but,
that's-
you know, you always think they're gonna have some people a lot. This year, we didn't, we used to have kids of, you know, that are around, now they're really too big to trick or treat. All Phil and Nellie's, you know, those kids are all.
I'm just lucky. I mean, I used to I was giving out full-size candy bars so the kids would come to my house.
Geez,
and I'd get the
I'm coming
kids
next year.
Full-size candy bars and shots for the adults. I do
Well, I
kamikaze,
don't-
butterball.
Well, I don't
whiskey.
do those, but
Well,
anyway.
Well, a lot of people say no, thank you. They just don't want it. Other people look forward to it every year. They go, oh, it's a cold night, I'm gonna have a shot and go on my way, and,
Yeah.
and they love it. But I've been doing it for 20 years, and I built up a good following.
I bet.
And
I think he should need some liquor
and
license.
now with trunk or treat, all these cars come parking across the street. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you know. But all these so many cars coming. I think pretty much my regulars that most people haven't found out because
Well, I'll tell you, it's just
I can't handle
dangerous
1,000,
driving.
let alone 2,000 like
Dangerous
uptown.
driving down there. Whew.
But I get down, I
Dark.
bought 400 candy bars. I get down to like a dozen left in the bucket. I'm like, oh my god.
I can see you brought one
Like,
with
it's
you.
8 o'clock. That was my supper. We'll see if I get to it. 8 o'clock. So I made
Oh,
it.
it's
by this-
8:30 already.
No, I mean, yeah, last night I was waiting until 8 to skin my teeth to make it through.
We didn't get one.
Would you like this thing? You're welcome to it. I have
I think
a
you're
bucket
up.
at home with
Yeah.
like 10 of those left. And all right, so that was a fun little, but yeah, that was good. And I don't have a report. So Jessica, administrative report, if you like.
Sure, I typed something up today and handed it out to everybody. I don't know if you have it in front of you, Greg, it's somewhere in that pile of papers.
You say it is, yes. It was under the very first, did I
I
flip
think
it
it
over
was
right on
like,
it?
it should be double-sided, so.
No, it should be right-
It's somewhere in there.
Right under my beginning pile of flips. Oh, well, I'll find it.
Okay, so I'll just get going. I'll start off with Very Scary. Yes, very successful event. It's only my second year of being a part of it, but we did a couple things different, as we always try to do to improve the event. We had the same number of cars, a lot of repeat people with their trunks. So we had roughly 25 people with trunks and a couple of tables. The Historical Society also, they had like a little haunted house thing, which was very, very fun. I think it got a lot of foot traffic through the building, and I hope it, continues throughout the future. And so we estimate about 2,500 people attended, which includes children and adults. So that was excellent turnout. Both the fire chief and the police chief said that this is far more people that they've seen than in years past, and we are contributing a lot to, one, the success of past events, and then two, the weather was very nice. We also implemented a new traffic plan to help divert the vehicular traffic away from the Ruggles Lane neighborhoods, which has been a concern in previous years, just because there's a lot of foot traffic in those tighter streets that are not brightly lit. So that concern was definitely heard, and I'm very glad that we diverted traffic on Park Street, which is on the north side of North Common, and people were able to continue up Route 122 as they normally would. So that tactic we will probably use in the future as well. In other news, I did hear from Rep. Berthium this weekend that he was able to secure $20,000 for the town to use towards broadband internet expansion. So that we are so grateful for, and it will only help us in this journey of trying to get everybody connected, which I hear about.
Every day.
Yeah.
I hear
if
about it
not,
every
I
day.
would say, if not every day, I hear about it at least once or twice a week.
Yeah.
From new residents as well as from residents who have been here for a long time. So it's definitely something that I hear a lot. Another thing that came across my desk today is that the Barre Wool Building, they have pulled final demolition permits. We don't have a date for the demolition at that time, but that happened today, so that's very recent news.
Excellent.
At the Public Safety Building, we did receive our assessment, which showed high levels of penicillium mold, which is
Not the bad kind?
not,
It's not good.
It's interesting. I've learned a lot about mold, and I guess this is type of mold that you will consume, like if you just go outside and breathe air, there's penicillium mold in that air. So,
That's how they discovered penicillin.
well, that is true. Yep, that's where the penicillin painkiller drug comes from, partially. So after we heard that our insurance company was not going to cover this issue of remediation, I reached out to our health partners in Leicester, and I asked them, what we should do for next steps, just to make sure that the building was safe for everybody to be working in. And he recommended that we reach out to the Department of Public Health and have an indoor air quality test conducted. So myself, along with Chief Carbone and the Deputy Chief, we were at the Public Safety Building on Friday I believe we were there, the guy was there for 5 hours with his assistant, and he gave us a wonderful lesson on issues regarding mold, how it affects our health or how it does not affect our health. And then also he did a very thorough inspection of the building. And his feeling is that the contractors, when the building was built, did not do their due diligence, or the town. You can either say it's either the town or the contractor, probably a mix of both. There's a lot of punch list items that should have been addressed before the town accepted the building. So he is going to write up a formal report that goes through each of these issues. We are starting to pick away from them because he gave us, when he was doing his debrief with us, he did give us a laundry list of things to look into. So we're starting out. One of the issues that he noticed was that our furnace, it had a lot of soot in it. So we had our fire inspector, because this DPH guide felt that the furnace was not sealed properly.
Great.
So
We've already had a fire call there and an issue with that furnace.
Oh, okay then.
yes. So he recommended our fire inspector go out and look at it, which I had James do today, and I'm waiting for a report back from James. And then we're going to have the furnace serviced. But I guess my concern is that, as Greg mentioned, there was a fire issue there last year, and last year it was serviced and cleaned, and for there to be this much soot and what James fears is a lot of buildup already, just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for a new building that was just serviced last year. So we have, beyond just the mold issues, we have other issues. So that report will be forthcoming, and then I will be working on a plan to address these issues, which will not be cheap. But he feels that we don't have to replace our HVAC system, which I thought we were going to have to. He doesn't think that's the case. He thinks that there's other things we can fix to make our HVAC system work the way it's supposed to.
Proper drainage of the system.
Correct.
Is key.
Right. So, next on my list is the master plan. I have CMRPC on the schedule to present to the select board at our next meeting on November 15th, their proposal to do the master plan for the town. This is obviously it's just one proposal. It's a proposal we won't have to go out to bid for. But since they have done so many of our plans for the town, I think that it might be a good fit for us to have them do this plan as well. I've also invited the planning board for that meeting. As far as ARPA goes, Dr. Marshall and we met with Capital Strategic Solutions last week because they do grant management and they are breaking into managing ARPA for towns, which I think would be a good investment for the town. just because I just don't feel that we have the administrative capacity to take on this project ourselves. So they will also be in attendance on November 15th, and I invited the Finance Committee to observe that meeting as well, just because they are, they have an interest in ARPA and how the money is spent as well. The tax rate, if we have a busy meeting November 15th, I'm trying to pack it in before I go, for a couple weeks, but the public hearing is set, to set the tax rate is scheduled for November 15th at 6:30 PM.
We have all the data to do that?
So our assessor side is done, we're just waiting for our accountants to get done, and I will follow up with her, but I've already made it clear to the department heads that I want this to be done November 15th, so it doesn't have to be done while I'm gone. And then I have two more things. So we have our rapid recovery plan, which I will send out to you tomorrow. A draft has been submitted to the state, and I'm in the process of submitting projects to the state's funding team for implementation. Just to go back a little bit, the Rapid Recovery Plan was a grant that I had earned several months ago to help with economic recovery in the South Barre area. And so now they're looking, the state has extra funding to do implementation projects, so I'm going to submit for some of those projects, two of those projects. I haven't fully gone through all of our projects that we have on there, because I think there's about 6 or 8, but probably the top 2 that were identified, I will send forward to the state. And then the last thing that I want to mention is the proposed holiday schedule that has come up a lot recently with some staff trying to plan out their holiday schedules. So Christmas and New Year's both fall on Saturdays.
So Fridays are not a work day anyway, right?
Friday is not a work day anyway.
So we don't have to give a day off?
I know, right? As our labor attorney sitting here like,
You know that's not my attitude. You know that. You know
Yeah.
that after the last one. That's not my attitude.
Right, so I would propose to have the Mondays off, December 27th and January 3rd, just because I feel like,
Well, they get Christmas Eve off already, which is good.
Yeah.
right, so,
I certainly would move approval. And on the half day before Wednesday.
and then, yeah, half day is just a typical,
Right, yeah.
the town has given a half day on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving
Yep.
for several years now.
I would move approval of the holiday schedule presented by the administrative assistant.
I would second.
Motion is second to approve the holiday schedule, which would be the Mondays off and the half-day on Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. Any further discussion?
Can you remind us again when you were gonna be out of?
Yep, I'm gonna be away on November 26th through December 11th. So I'll be back December 13th, that's a Monday.
When is the shower?
What is what shower?
For the puppy.
Oh, my
Puppy
puppy shower. Yeah.
What is the puppy gonna do for all that time?
Yeah. Oh, he's not gonna be we're not adopting him till December 18th, so.
Okay.
My other puppy is gonna have fun at his aunt and uncle's house.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote, then all those in favor? Aye. Excellent.
Thank you, Jessica, nice review.
Thank you. There was a lot that came up.
But that's great. I mean, I'm happy to see some movement on that safety building.
It's been a fight.
Well, and I know fixing it's another whole fight to do, but
Right.
at least
I
we
just-
have identified
Yeah.
the mold, and the Department of Public Health is in there. They
Right.
can be very helpful.
And I feel like after having that conversation in that meeting with him, I feel like I have more clarity now. And it's, he's a pharmacist by trade, and then he ended up in DPH to do this air quality work. But I just feel like I've gotten a lot more clarity on the actual issues of the building, because he's inspected like thousands of public buildings. So our issues are not unique, unfortunately.
Parts of it, I mean, there's obviously a failing in our own inspectional services from the day.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Let these things go through, and I at times have any issues with that inspector, but that's all water under the bridge.
Yes, it
It's
is.
not- Inspector's not our problem anymore.
No,
Um,
I don't think you
What can we
get
say?
public comment.
We'll just
I believe
move
it's
on.
penicillium mold under the bridge in this case.
Yes, exactly. Unfortunately, that's, a lot of that project was misfortunate, but
No, we just
It
don't
is
wanna
what it
do-
is,
We don't
and
want to sully the
as
fire
I said,
project coming
it is
up.
what it is. We
Yeah.
have to move forward, and,
Yeah.
well, the fire project coming up will be overseen by
Gonna say, I will
different personnel.
Yeah.
not let this happen to a fire department.
No, no other
No
people,
way.
no other people in the fire department.
Okay, so public
Sure.
comment, it looks like.
Public comment period?
Do you have anyone on the Zoom? I see a little little red notification,
You have one chat saying, I'm assuming that's Matt Urban, says underground directional boring can get under without cutting pavement. So that must have been from before.
That was before.
Right, that's to go, that's they're crossing under, but they're not gonna go 200 feet that way, and they're not gonna get their catch basins in, so. That's the biggies, those 8 by 14 or 16 pieces that we're gonna.
Right.
So is there no
10
one?
by 16.
No
Nope,
one?
nobody
So we
else.
can get offline
Okay,
for
so we'll move
executive
out of
session?
public comment, move to executive session, I will make the motion to move to executive session. Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A, to conduct strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, being fire and police chiefs.
Second?
Motion is second to move to executive session. Any further discussion before we do so? And I would add the caveat that we will exit executive session only to adjourn. There will be no meeting following.
Marshall, yes?
Clark, yes.